In today's competitive world, those spotting an opportunity first are undeniably the ones gaining an edge. At SCG, we believe that opportunity is everywhere. For more than a century, we have learned, adapted, and curiously looked for the opportunity. It has made us a unique, leading organization in ASEAN, ready to compete globally. Founded in 1913 to manufacture cement, a raw material for our national development, SCG entered the paper business in 1976, before stepping into a chemical industry in 1983. Wholeheartedly embracing our passion for better commitment, we also embarked on an international trade journey in 1978 through the Siam Cement Trading Company Limited. The company enjoyed healthy growth, eventually becoming SCG International Corporation Company Limited in 2018. We never stopped improving ourselves in order to achieve and deliver the best for our customers. To make it happen, we combine products, services, and technologies with trust and strong partnership, connecting the dots for your successful business. We also innovated our ecosystem business model, providing international end-to-end business services and solutions for customers from the first step all the way to the finish line. It is our mission. International Trade Expert. Thanks to our long history of import and export expertise, our clients not only have come to trust in our quality products that address their needs, SCG International Corporation also opens doors of opportunity around the globe for them to facilitate their business expansion. With long experience in importing and exporting, clients will receive not only their trust in our quality products that answer to their needs, but also doors of opportunity opened by SCG International to new markets around the globe for their business expansion. Service and solutions provider. SCG International is committed to providing full-scale services that can be wholeheartedly trusted, while also offering diverse experiences that add value to our products and services. New technology business. To meet the diverse business needs of our customers, SCG International brings new and various technologies and tools to the table, which help strengthen your business. Digital platform. Our foot in the digital world, we are now building our B2B digital trading platform together with a top-class technology partner, so you can maximize your business in the right places and reach the right customers. Distribution solutions. We enable our customers to access the right market and create a distribution channel for every kind of product. Our experience and strong alliances will help raise product profiles in Thailand or any other target country. We connect the dots success. Our competitive advantage lies in our collaboration with strategic partners around the world over the span of more than 40 years. SCG International Corporation strongly believes that all opportunities ultimately success. We are ready to enhance our competitiveness through continued collaboration with our partners to grow sustainably as a trusted international business partner. SCG International, trusted international business partner.
This is our special event, which is more special because we have a chance to welcome our partners from both within the SCG group and our partners from all around the world. The participants will be joining us both online via Zoom and on-site here at SCG headquarters, making this event a truly hybrid format. My name is Panuwat Kanchanawat, and I will be your MC today. Firstly, may I invite Mr. Apishit Datta, Managing Director of SCG International Corporation, to please come on stage and deliver the opening speech.
Sawasdee Krab. Good morning and a very warm welcome to all our participants, both those who are physically present here, as well as all those joining us virtually via the online channel. The Global Update 2020 is an annual event that we have been hosting by SCG International, mainly to share information about what's happening around the world. This year is special. We are facing very difficult and challenging circumstances, and so we decided to do it differently. We have not only changed it to be a hybrid event, which is both physical as well as online, but also we decided to open it up to external participants, which is our customers, suppliers, stakeholders. And so we're extremely happy that we have today, hopefully a few hundred participants joining us via the online channel. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of our stakeholders, customers, as well as employees in various countries around the world who are joining us online for sharing your valuable time. So let me take a few minutes to talk about the theme for this morning's session and what our objective is. As you all know, we have spent the better part of this year understanding, trying to digest, and then also react to the pandemic crisis. The crisis, the supply chain disruption, actually started in China, in the city of Wuhan, as you all know, and as many as 200 of Fortune 500 companies have actually got a facility in the city of Wuhan, and that's where the supply shock actually started. And very soon it spread as a domino effect throughout the entire world. Lately, of course, over the last few months, we are witnessing the demand shock, where in many products, the demand has actually come down. In other products, the demand's actually rebounding, and great imbalances are taking place. As we speak, we are facing a very acute container shortage. So COVID is really top of mind for everyone. But what I'd also like to mention is disruptions did not start with COVID. We have all actually faced a lot. So if we go back and take a step back, then we find that we have had technology-oriented disruptions, where we had the online channel, and we had platform business models, and we had ecosystem businesses, which disrupted the traditional channels of distribution and retail. And then if you go further back, then we had global trade issues, and we had large political changes which influenced economic policies, and those disrupted traditional lanes, trading lanes, etc. And if you go further back, then there have been large global events in various parts of the world which have had cascading impacts across the world. For example, the Fukushima event in Japan, where a disruption in that area actually resulted in a total disruption in electronic spare parts supply chain across the world. And then a few months later, in that same year, we had the Thailand floods, which we all know. And Thailand is actually the manufacturer for 40% of the world's hard disk drives. And so that disrupted the entire computer supply chain in the whole world. And then several years ago, we had the Iceland volcano. Iceland's a very small country, but then there was the volcano, and that actually resulted in smoke above the skies of Europe, which actually created disruption in spare parts supply chain, again, having consequences across the world. So what we're actually seeing is that through various sources, whether it's technology or events in various parts of the world, we're really exposed to disruption. In fact, some people are saying now that every 3 years we can expect to see a disruption which can impact at a global scale for about a month. And every 2 years we can expect to see a disruption that will impact us for a couple of weeks. So to discuss all of these issues and to try to see how we can, in terms of breakthrough approach, so that we can not only look at disruptions as a risk management issue, but we can look at disruptions as something that is a new normal, and how we can actually approach it in a more systemic way. We have with us today 3 very distinguished speakers, so I would just like to recognize them, and of course, later on you will be seeing them. The first one is Dr. Chabapon, who is the country head of Amazon Web Services, or AWS, a company that everybody knows. The second is Mr. Edward Pinto, who is the country commercial and sales head of DHL, again, a very well-known company, everybody knows. And finally, but not the least, we have Dr. Jesada, who is a lecturer at the Chulalongkorn University and also an international news commentator, a TV and radio host, very well known as well. And so we expect to have a lot of sharing, a lot of good experiences, and hopefully this will benefit all of us. But first of all, let me briefly talk to you about the agenda for today. Immediately after my opening remarks, we will have the first session, which is to cover the key economic highlights and key developments across the world. And this will be a session that will be presented by our own SCG International colleagues who are actually running these businesses in different countries, and some of them are actually located right now in those countries. So we really look forward to listening to them and seeing what they have to say and what they have to tell us about what's going on. And that session will end at about 10:40, when we will have a short break. And then after the break at 10:45, we will come together and start the second session, where we will have presentations by our speakers. And after these presentations, we will also have a panel discussion, which obviously will be moderated by Dr. Jesada. So we look forward to a very, very interesting morning session, topic of great interest to all of us. Before I end my opening remarks, I'd just like to take this opportunity to express our gratitude and thanks to all our customers, our suppliers, our stakeholders, our distributors, our partners, everybody in all of these countries. You have really supported us through this very difficult period of time. We in SCG International believe that the only way that we can really face this new normal is by collaboration, by partnering with all of our stakeholders in a spirit of teamwork, so that we can actually deliver value to our customers as an ecosystem rather than as individual products. So that is something that we firmly believe, and we really look forward to working together with our partners. So with that, thank you very much, and may I now hand it over to Ong to moderate the first session. Thank you very much, and Sawasdee Krap.
Thank you very much, Mr. Apichit Datta, for your opening remarks. This year is the very first time that SCG International Global Update is to be organized through the Zoom application. We now have over 500 participants joining us online. So without further ado, let us move to the first session, the Global Economic Update. During this session, if any of you have any questions, please feel free to leave your messages or questions in the chat. Now, let us start off with the ASEAN region. This region can be considered to be a strategic region for SCG International because it has experienced high growth in the past few years. And just recently, the nations of the Southeast Asia and 5 other economic powerhouses just recently signed the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. May I now invite Mr. Yongyot Phonthanavat, our ASEAN Business Director, to share some information about the RCEP and how it affects the ASEAN region.
Sawasdee Krap. Good morning, everyone. So I'm very pleased to be here and have some speech sharing, short sharing about the ASEAN country. So basically, we cannot avoid any chance to talking about the RCEP because from the last 2 weeks, just signed the agreement together. 10 countries plus 5, starting from ASEAN plus 3, ASEAN plus 6, and become the RCEP. This RCEP is we can say that the biggest community of the trade collaborations together with the population in these 15 countries is about the 2.2 billion. It's about the 30% of the world population. And if we include altogether 15 countries, we found that 30% of the GDP is also including significant of the impact of the next page after COVID. So in the 15 country RCEP, and the implementation will become the next move. After 6 from 10 ASEAN countries, plus 3 of 6 from non-ASEAN countries, ratify the domestic law. After that, RCEP will implement full scheme. We hope that it will take about 6 months or 1 year next. So in this scheme, we can see the big brother is China, with the biggest population and the biggest GDP portions. We found that China, if we look down in the details, we found that it is a part of the Belt and Road Initiative of the China scheme. They're very important. And one important thing is Japan. We never know that Japan never have the FTA with China. Japan never have the FTA with Korea. In the moment, including RCEP group, Japan got the free trade move. From this RCEP, the products, tariff, import duty will reduce step by step and tend to be 0% of the import duty. In the meantime, the investment will become flow FDI quite freely. What important things is that how can we protect our local producer in ASEAN? In ASEAN, we are developing country, emerging country. We are significant of the GDP growth in the world. We can say the ASEAN region. How can we protect? Non-tariff barrier will become more and more important. The first one, non-tariff barrier in terms of product standardized. The second one, non-tariff barrier in terms of the clean product production. This become more and more scheme of the non-tariff barrier scheme that will be in 15 countries will be launched, come out one by one. And the RCEP will help for the movement of the intra-region from the COVID. We found that globalization dropped, right now become the regionalizations. So RCEP will boost more concept of these regionalizations. Supply chain will become the more important. How can we develop the supply chain efficiency in order to move the raw material in these 15 countries to gain the benefit of the good products, raw material, good price raw material, and good delivery raw materials? 3 key criteria that the importance for the supply chain, good supply chain in RCEP among 15 countries. And in the COVID past, of course, the social, physical distance come a lot more important. IT will become e-commerce will become more important role, important practice to boost more cargo move, to move the business, boost more business move. So, and IP, intellectual property will become important things that the country need to taking care IP of yourself as best as you can. These are the things that will happen. If you're talking about the RCEP side, what the benefit to the ASEAN country? We can say that the first group of the industry is agricultural, including rice, cassava, livestock, and the important one is rubber and rubber products. It's one importance that the agricultural groups, that the ASEAN country can gain more the benefit of the RCEP, this one. And manufacturing in terms of the industrial process, our ASEAN will become the kitchen of the world, so we can do more, promote the processed food to the among 15 countries. Also the service, after the investment come, FDI come, the service, fintech, the service of the registration company in the country will grow more for the service sector. So besides this, after RCEP action, after RCEP effective, we found that the GDP will grow more for the ASEAN country. After GDP growth, of course, energy consumption growth. Of course, construction sector growth. Of course, ASEAN will become the emerging role part, emerging country, the role part that we can move the products. The packaging will become the importance, and food sector will become important. These are a few sectors that become grow more opportunity for the ASEAN country. Otherwise, our SCG International ASEAN team have the aim more strongly that we will create the in-country supply chain to support our customer, to support our partner, to improve, to gain the benefit from this scheme of the RCEP together. Thank you. We think that the aim that our customer success is our SCG International success as well. Thank you very much. So I would like to pass the stage to Mr. Sunthanpon, CMV Regional Manager. Thank you.
Sawadee Very good morning to everyone. My name is Sunthanpon, taking care for CMV region. First of all, we would like to thank to our valued customer, business partner for your support, and we may look forward to passing through this tough time together. Regarding our key business in this region, Cambodia and Myanmar, we do have quite the same, since these two countries are agricultural and export garment based. But Vietnam, our business is diversified. We are now focusing on raw material and steel supply. Let's move on the next point regarding COVID effect. Even the number of COVID-19 pandemic in this region is not that much comparing with other countries, but I believe the impact would be more or less the same as we are in the same chain. Giving you the example of garment and tourism industry, which contribute to the GDP of Cambodia and Myanmar around 50% or more. Once the restriction of traveling across the countries, quarantine policy, or even the market like US and European getting down, there will be effect to both Cambodia and Myanmar that much. But for Vietnam, even they were facing with the second wave of COVID in late July, but they did manage very well. That's why they got more confidence from foreign investors. When we are talking about the beginning of COVID in this region, China is one of the largest sourcing supply country in the world. Once they were locked down for a couple months, it affected to the whole world supply chain, including this region. Many people looking for alternative source of supply in order to keep their production running. Vietnam become one of the key players since then. And now, I may pass to my colleague, starting from Cambodia, Mr. Surochai. He is waiting for you now. For me, thank you. ขอบคุณครับ
Arun Sosadai. Good morning from Cambodia. As Khun Sunthanpon mentioned about the COVID-19 that affect to a lot of countries. For Cambodia, this year is considered the lowest growth since 1994 at -1.6%. After COVID, Cambodia expected to have growth about 5% from non-garment industry such as electronics, bicycle, and also from agricultural segment. Cambodian government tried to spend $1 billion in order to mobilize the macroeconomic and also to reform the financial sector. The foreign investment and also the infrastructure expansion is implemented this year, such as the new airports, the new highways, and also the new industrial zone. For next year, the trend of digital technology will be more familiar to Cambodian people. This is because the internet user is increasing about 1.3 million users, or 15% growth compared to last year. The good example is the online shopping. This online shopping also generates the consequent activities such as the electronic payment, the money transfer, and also the door-to-door delivery provided by the local logistic companies. National Bank of Cambodia is trying to launch the new application called Bagong. This Bagong application will connect to the electronic application electronic transfer of all banks in Cambodia altogether. And the last important trend of food delivery will be support and promote the trend of digital technology in Cambodia. I can share about my experience during self-quarantine after I arrived to Cambodia. I order my food through these applications every day. And once you place order, then another next 20 minutes, you will get the food at your place. And I think that this food delivery trend will be more and more provided to the Cambodian people. That's all update from Cambodia. I pass the next to Kun Kamthon from Myanmar. Thank you very much. All Kun 𝐿𝐻𝐸 บ๊ายบายครับ
Thank you ครับคุณสุรชัยเมงกะลาบาสวัสดีครับ Good morning everyone Welcome to Myanmar My name is Kamthon I would like to start from Myanmar GDP that year estimate drop from last year 103% mostly from COVID impact Anyway for next year ADB see the optimistic for Myanmar GDP to be around 6% and Myanmar government try to boost their economy through foreign investment, both through stock exchange and some domestic infrastructures. For this few years, more than 10 mega projects were approved to support Myanmar economic corridor. Mostly of the project will construct along the way from South China to Myanmar to Bay of Bengal, which the main investor is China. Another big project is New Yangon City, the dream project as the new town. Right now, the first phase is on process. The new one is under discussion to finding contractors and investors, which there are a lot of foreign companies, both from Asia and European countries, to join bidding with these projects. In terms of political stability, this month we have election in Myanmar. NLD still be popular in home countries. Even Aung San Suu Kyi may get some negative reputations about economic performance and human rights issue with Rohingya people. Actually, during the elections, our team in Yangon informed me that some people didn't want to go out because of COVID-19 still widespread all over countries. However, so far, NLD got the majority seat in Myanmar elections to continue being a government for the second term. For next year, Myanmar government also have the big issue to control widespread of COVID-19 in country. The hard work for next year for the government still be with Rohingya issue, which will be treated to the global perception if they cannot solve properly. That's all for Myanmar เจสุทินบาเดขอบคุณครับ Next let's go to Vietnam
Xin chào, good morning. Now we finished Myanmar already, so let's come to join the Vietnam story. This year, Vietnam facing COVID problem. And GDP still remain around 2.5%. And next year, the figure will jump up to be around 7%. Vietnam is considered to be one of the most growing economy in Asia. There are so many companies shift their production to Vietnam already. Why Vietnam? There are some reasons. One, political very stable. Second, labor cost is very competitive. The third one, their labor skill is improving day by day. So no doubt why Vietnam. Apart from the economic sector, Vietnamese also have the clear plan to use more renewable energy, some kind like solar power or hydropower. Moreover, do you know that right now Vietnam have EV bus already? routing from Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh and then to Phu Quoc. So let's come to Vietnam and then you can try it. MRT would be the new transportation way of the Ho Chi Minh people, routing around 20 kilometers around the Ho Chi Minh. And then the finish would be end of next year. Then Vietnamese can try and see that they love it or not. I would like to touch a bit about the new election next year in May 23rd. Some say to me that don't worry about the election, no surprise for the result. Vietnamese will enjoy the election day. When we're talking about Vietnam, we cannot run away to say something about digital economy. Right now it's very booming. The growth rate is more than 20% per year. There are 4 key platforms to fighting each other. The 2 big ones would be Shopee, Lazada, in which you know both of them well. The third one is Tiki. Tiki is a local platform. It's a local Vietnamese platform, Vietnamese owner, but they're growing day by day. They're booming day by day. They can offer the attractive promotion. They can offer the good policy. That's why right now, teenagers use them more and more. So in the near future, you can see how they fight with 2 big players in the market. Vietnam also expect that digital economy will provide around $10 billion by the year 2025. Up to now, you can see that Vietnam is very promising, very interesting. So welcome to Vietnam. That's all for CMV region. So I would like to move the next one to IMP region, คุณยงยศ ผลธนาวัฒน์ Thank you very much.
Once again for IMP region. Thank you very much for CMV, Mr. Sunthornpon and the team. Very great information. And the next step, we can move further to IMP, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Philippines. In IMP, so we found that this year, COVID is affect a lot with Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia. So from this COVID, have the lockdown, movement control, effect to the domestic consumption, effect to the production stage, production operations, and effect to the tourists. That means the tourists become the good country income sector portion of this country. So, but anyway, for this year, 2020, we cannot avoid the minus of the GDP growth. But we have strong hope after vaccine and the post-COVID. We think that the IMP will become the strong region for the GDP growth next year, 2021 more. If you think about the, what happened in the COVID, supply chain from globalization shut down to be regionalization. In these 3 countries, in this region, including Singapore and Brunei, become the strong footprint to move further step. So the supply chain will become the importance to think and prepare for the next step. Also the financial market, because of this, everything stopped, movement control, lockdown, the financial, that means debt from the customer is quite important. Our customer, our partner need to think a lot about when you sell the products to customer, need to control the credit limit. Have the record that 3rd quarter in the emerging country to GDP is about 250% debt to GDP. It's quite significant, important number. Anyway, what should we do after post-COVID? The first one, HR, human resource. Your human resource need to be prepared for upskill and reskill. Upskill in term, reskill in term of the resilient, in term of the agile, faster speed of the decision, faster speed of the execution. And upskill, reskill in terms of the digital, because the post-COVID, digital come more further importance in the life spending. So digital life is coming soon. And diversifications, next one, diversification of the market, diversification of the supply. It's quite important that you need to think and well planning, prepare for the post-COVID coming in. And finally, number 3, post-COVID, to build the expand of the business, the market and production network, supply chain is become more important that need to develop. How can make supply chain end-to-end supply chain? It's quite important things. In IMP, we aim to develop, we aim to collaboration with our partner in the country to support together for in-country supply chain, basically in 3 clusters, beside the existing products. More 3 clusters that we keep more focusing to help to cooperate together in packaging, in food cluster, and construction cluster. So thank you for overview IMP region. I would like to move past the stage to Mr. Lachanop, our Managing Director of Indonesia office. Thank you very much. ขอบคุณครับ
Okay, selamat pagi semua orang di sini dan di Zoom. Okay, good morning everyone. So for Indonesia countries, this year the GDP is forecasting to be -1%. So basically it's coming from the effect from the COVID globally and also impact to Indonesia. Domestic would be drastically drop, and we believe that the next year would be resuming back to be 5.3%. So country realized that the domestic consumption would be down. So we need the investment from foreigners or FDI. So we will see that the FDI numbers in this year is forecasting to be around $7.4 billion. Mostly it's come from top five countries, for example, like Singapore, Hong Kong, China, Japan, and also South Korea. All of these countries also continue developing the countries in next year also, and mostly it's come from the trend that we are capturing the opportunity. Of course, there will be 310 that we would like to introduce here, and then we are trying to be a part of them. The first one would be the construction growth. So there are several projects, including infrastructure and also the new industrial estate in Central Java. It's called Batang region. That would be the area to handle the relocation of the industrial from another countries, for example, like USA, Japan, also South Korea. The value of this project, around $850 million, is quite big. A second one would be the future technology. We are capturing the opportunity of the EV technology. The fossil fuel is about to be obsoleting in Indonesia, so we need non-fossil fuel to be replaced. So EV vehicle and also the hybrid become the trend. The government is forecasting in 2025, we expect to have 20% of the total vehicle in Indonesia is come from this combination of the EV and also the hybrid engine. And lastly, on the e-commerce, we have to say that during the COVID pandemic, e-commerce is very booming. Aside from the food delivery and also the packaging deliveries, there's another trend that is very popular here. That is the doctor online. We call Hello Doc. Okay, so the evaluation of this application is around $78 million at this moment, and it's continue growing. In this network, there is comprised of around 20,000 of doctors plus 10,000 of the pharmacies in the network. So people now is aware the rising number of the COVID, and the vaccine is still not available, so this become a trend. We are trying to capture the opportunity of this one also. Lastly, on the new capital city plan, so it still continue. So there's several news that it will be delayed, but finally it will be continuing. And lastly, it will be estimating to be completing move out to be on 2024, the next 3 years. Okay, that will be all update from Indonesia. Terima kasih semua orang. Next, I will pass the stage to our Malaysia office, Mr. Tupanai. Thank you.
Good morning. Selamat pagi. I'm Supanai from SCG International Malaysia office. According to Asian Development Bank, GDP of Malaysia this year will contract to 5% and then will rebound in 2021 to 6.5%. It is from improvement in global demand, turnaround in public and private sector expenditure, and also expenditure from government that will drive economy to grow in 2021. This year, COVID-19 has a major impact to the country. Movement Control Order, or we call MCO, was been implementing since March onwards. Government has embarked various series of immediate action to stimulate the economy by using economic stimulus measures worth 305 billion Malaysian ringgit, both in fiscal and non-fiscal measures. It's called Prihatin or concerns in English. Mainly of Prihatin package is to provide immediate assistance to those who are affected from COVID-19. Next is to support business to recover. It's called Prihatin Penchana. And next, to stimulate and support the laborers, it calls wage subsidy program or Kita Prihatin. This year, we noticed that workforce in the labor market prefer to work by temporary job position. It's called gig economy. This is coming from people in the country get used to use digital service application widely. We also utilize this kind of digital to monitor our shipment during the lockdown period in Malaysia in early the year. And then we can support by deliver on-time cargo to serve customer needs with good quality of products. This year and next year, monetary policy from the government is really important for the mitigation factors to drive the economic growth. Overnight policy rate and also supporting banking sector is two strategies that government will perform. The country also accelerate on digitalization widely to support digital trade as well. We expected to grow by 222 billion Malaysian ringgit in the year 2030 from only 31 billion from digital trade in Malaysia in 2019. In 2021, all economic sectors is projecting to growth, especially in construction sectors that forecast to grow up to 14%, followed by service sector that will grow around 7%. The acceleration of digitalization will drive gig economy as well. They forecast $7 trillion transaction within 2025 will come to Malaysia economy. We shall see the rapid development of Malaysia economy soon. This is the update of Malaysia. Thank you. Terima kasih.
The Philippines, mabuhay, welcome to the Philippines. Representing Philippines right now, the GDP for the Philippines has been no less than 6% since 2012. The forecasted GDP for this year is at -7.3. However, this might not have included the impact of the 5 typhoons that just recently hit the country. If we look back earlier to this year, in mid-March, the Philippines probably experienced the strictest lockdown in Southeast Asia. The country stood still for almost 3 months until the gradual reopening of the cities. However, all the sectors of the economy were affected, whether it's wholesale and retail trade or construction. But the only sector that showed promising growth is the e-commerce. Another factor that affected the contraction of the GDP in 2020 is the OFW remittance. It is expected to contract 7% year on year and might actually carry over to 2021. The GDP forecasted for next year is about 6.5%. The growth is mainly expected from 2 areas. One is the domestic consumption, which should bounce back by about 5% next year, coming mainly from the food and beverage sector. The other growth area is the government spending, and this is why the Build program is so important to the recovery of the economy. This program intends to expand the roads and highway networks in the Philippines. If you haven't been to the Philippines in the past 5 to 6 years, You'll be quite surprised by the new projects, by the new highways they have, particularly in. It used to take me about 1 to 1.5 hours to get from the CBD to Terminal 1, the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. But with now the new highway, it only takes about 30 minutes. However, that's on a very good day with no traffic. They also intend to improve the airport and seaport terminals. There are many plans to build new airport, especially a new one, not too far away from Manila. This airport will be built in Bulacan, and it should become the new international airport of the capital. The government has already set a budget for next year, about $22 billion. This is about 25% of the national budget. A new trend has also emerged during the COVID-19 lockdown. This is the shopping online. The Philippines' digital economy estimated to grow 55% this year. The product category with the highest growth is 1, food and groceries, 2, beauty and personal care, and 3, home and living. The market leaders in the market, like many other countries, are the likes of Shopee, Lazada, and Zalora. And the gross merchandising value, the GMV, estimated in 2020 is to be about $7.5 billion. This is expected to grow to $28 billion in 2025. That's a 30% growth annually. If any of us have a chance to tap into this channel, I'm sure it will show promising growth. And that is the end of the ASEAN region and the Philippines. So, maraming salamat po at magandang araw po. That's my attempt at the Tagalog. The pandemic has affected every country in the ASEAN region, and it proves that for each country to survive, the government must now reopen the economy. Nonetheless, the government should not neglect to lay the foundation for future growth. Now, let's to the second largest economy, China. Please welcome Mr. 𝐿𝐵𝐿, our China Regional Manager, who will be joining us from Guangzhou.
Thank you, Kun Panuwat. Good morning from Guangzhou, China. I'm 𝐿𝐵𝐿, China office. We start from the brief economic outlook. This year GDP growth is expected to be around 1.9%, but for next year, IMF forecasts that China will come back again with the GDP growth more than 8%. We can consider that right now, China already in the post-pandemic period, and the Chinese government reboost their economy by increasing the infrastructure, increasing the domestic demand. At the same time, it's trying to upgrade and reform the healthcare system. Regarding the environmental policy, right now in China already stopped using single-use plastic in many cities, including Guangzhou. And for next year, starting from next year onward, going to stop importing solid waste from overseas. And for next year, there is one important issue because China is going to have the new 5-year plan that we call 14-5. This plan going to cover from next year onward to year 2025. And we can expect that many of the policy, many of the plan, and many of the target going to be adjusted because of the pandemic effect. Mention about the pandemic, I would say that I first came here to China 18 years ago. On that year, it's 2002, we have the SARS outbreak, and this year we have COVID-19 again. But this 18 years, China have been changing a lot. And I would say that after the pandemic of this year, I see many new market trends in China. And today I would like to share to you guys about what I think is going to be promising industry next year in China. Starting from the first one, healthcare industry. The healthcare industry, I think this one is no doubt, everyone know that people is going to pay more attention to their health. They want to stay healthy, they want to improving their immunity, and they want to protecting themselves. So the product related to healthcare, for example, the medical devices, the PPE will be selling at the high volume for next year for sure. And at the same time, because China is a very big country with huge population, so the trend of the telemedicine will come also. At the same time, we also expect that the product that related to the healthy food, the healthy lifestyle will come. But for today, I would like to talk about the medical information. Because you know what, during the pandemic in China, there's too many fake news, there's too many rumor, but there is one application, health application, we call it 𝐿 Doctor. 𝐿 Doctor is created by the doctor, trying to be at the first time, they are the community of the doctor to share the information about the health. And during the pandemic, they play a big role to tackle, to fight the rumor, to fight with the fake news with their reliable information. So I think what we can learn from 𝐿 Doctor is information is power, but if we can provide reliable information, it's going to be much more powerful. The next one, is businesses. Actually, for this kind of service, start in China more than, I think many years ago, more than 10 years ago, I think. But it's growing a lot during this past 5 years. And after the pandemic, they grew at very good speed. The errand running businesses start in the big city first, and then gradually expanding to the small city. I believe that at this moment, we can use the errand running business, including for the food, the ride hailing in every China. For example, for me today morning, I also order my breakfast by Meituan. This is soybean milk, and this is dough stick. And you know what? I come back to China 2 months ago, and I need to be quarantined for 14 days in the hotel. But I didn't bring anything with me. I mean, I didn't bring any of my personal belongings, because I know that after I arrive to the hotel, I can order everything from Tmall supermarket, and they're gonna deliver to me on the same day that I place order. That means that people going to accept that, the people accept that they can pay more money to exchange for the convenience. But the important thing is this kind of business going to be more on demand, going to be more customized. So we learn that people willing to pay the money, maybe a little bit higher money, exchanging for the convenience. But for us, we need to consider what is the customer real demand. For the next one. The next one is online education industry. Education is very important in China because most of the family have only one child. So the parents need to make sure that they already provide the best educational background to their kid. And during the pandemic, many of the students, Chinese students, have adapted more and more to the online class. They have learned that we can study anything from anywhere at any time. I have one example. There is one application called 𝐼𝐴 𝐼𝐴 is now the most valuable education technology in the world. 𝐼𝐴 provides the closed loop of the learning system. They provide online classes, they provide the online tutoring, the in-person study, the solving. I don't know in other country, but in China, when the kids come back home from school and they finish homework, they always bring the homework to the parent to check whether they did it correct or not. And for me, I also have one Chinese wife. I have only one wife, and she is Chinese. And we were fight each other a lot about who is going to be the one who teach our kid. And 𝐼𝐴 can solve me this problem. I would say that in the future, I believe that education, business, education industry gonna be more and more in omnichannel, integrated online and offline, both in teaching and studying. Live broadcasting. Actually, this activity came during the pandemic because people feeling boring during lockdown, so they record themselves and publish on the internet. And they found that they can making money from the short video clip. They can turn to be the marketing activity. In the past, we need to pay the money to the celebrity to review our product, but for now, Chinese people believe that anyone can be the reviewer, and the market size now is very big. There are more than 390 million people in China that shopping online by watching the live broadcasting. And in China, the people spend by average 110 minutes per day to use the e-commerce application. And for us, SCG International China, we also have the online store in China. We are both in Tmall.com and JD.com. We call it 𝐶𝐷 flagship store to sell 𝐶𝐷 product in China market. And now we are considering to use this kind of marketing activity also. And the last one, 5G. Actually, no matter healthcare, urban learning services, the online education, the live broadcasting also need to be supported by 5G technology. Right now, China have the most 5G base station in the world, account about 70% of the world total. What we can expect from 5G technology? We can expect the ultra clear video, the autonomous driving, the smart city, also the public security. That's why I believe that starting from next year, there's going to be more and more 5G product will be launched into Chinese market. Last but not least, about the China-US relationship after Mr. Biden win the election. I believe that at this moment, China is wait and see who is going to be in Mr. Biden administration. That is supposed to be the same team as Mr. Obama. Anyway, we need to wait to see. And after that, I believe that China will going to cooperate more with the US to about the WTO reform. At the same time, both countries need to discuss more to get back to the trade, but to make sure that both countries can protect their national security. And for China, at the same time, beside the US, China also need to strengthen the international relationship with other countries. For example, the ASEAN with the ASEAN. Okay, thank you so much for today. Thank you, everyone. I would like to return the stage to Mr. Panuwat. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kasun. I think this is also an emerging trend where you can have breakfast during the webinar. Shall we now move further west to the world's largest economy, the United States? The US just had an election earlier this month. Let us hear some updates about the current results and what will be the policies for the next 4 years. May I now invite Mr. Nathawood, who will be joining us from Torrance, California.
Thanks, Panuwat, for your question, and hello, everyone. Before I talk about the U.S. policies for the next 4 years, let's take a look at what happened to the U.S. this year. Now, for this year, the U.S. has been hit hard by COVID-19 pandemic, just like any other countries. U.S. GDP expected to be at negative 4.3%. Unemployment rate expected to increase to 8.9%. Majority of the job losses are coming from transportation sectors, manufacturing, retail, amusement park, and restaurant. Federal Reserve is trying to inject the money into the system by restarting the QE program and also lower the interest rate to drive the economy. Now for next year, we expect to see the better year for the US. We are still counting on the new vaccine that will fight against COVID-19. Some people might be less concerned on COVID-19 pandemic and start to come out and live their normal lives. We expect to see more and more government spending, especially in infrastructure projects. So all these factors will help push the economy for next year. So we forecast US GDP to be at 3.1%. Unemployment rate drop a little bit to 7.3%. We still expect to see a high growth of coal industry. This is due to the huge demand of the energy during the winter season. However, in medium term and long term, we expect to see a decline of coal industry and replaced by renewable energy industry. There are 3 industries that we expect to see a growth are healthcare, retail, and IT. However, for construction industry, we expect to see a slight decline of 2.4%. This is due to the delay of the new project under the private sectors. Now let's take a look at the current result of election 2020. Based on the current result, Joe Biden will become the next president of the US. We still expect Republicans to hold a majority seat in Senate. And we also expect Democrats to hold a majority seat in House of Representatives. Now, what does it mean? It means that for the next 4 years, during the Joe Biden's term, if he wants to pass any policies through Congress, it will be tough because he has to push through Senate, which Republican is the majority seats. So we have to see how it will turn out for the next 4 years. Now, let's answer Khun Panuwat's question regarding US policies. I pick out 4 policies to discuss today. First one is healthcare. We all know that Joe Biden wants to bring back healthcare. But the topic that I want to discuss today is the COVID-19. Joe Biden already formed COVID transition team in order to lay the groundwork for White House coronavirus response. So we expect to see more mask mandates in the US. We expect to see quicker COVID testing. And Joe Biden and his team still have to figure out how to distribute the vaccines as fast as possible once it becomes available in the US. Vaccine is a game changer. Because if the vaccine works, then we expect to see more people coming out and live as their normal lives again. We expect to see people go out and shopping instead of stay home and just order everything online. This will have a negative impact to e-commerce business and packaging business as well, since it's tied together. Just like when I went to outlet over the past weekend, I saw a very long lines in front of every store. So even without the vaccine, people are coming out and do the shopping in the store. So if vaccine works, we expect to see more and more people coming out and live their normal lives again. So we just have to wait and see. Now, for the second policy is climate change and environmental policies. Joe Biden wants to re-enroll the US into Paris Agreement. He wants to transform fossil fuel industry into cleaner energy. So for the next 4 years, we expect to see more and more usage of renewable energy in the US. We expect to see more and more electric vehicles in the US. We expect to see new technology to create clean energy in the US. We might see more export of coal into other countries because of the less demand of coal in the US. Well, we are talking about like medium term. For the infrastructure policies, Joe Biden wants to improve the infrastructure and spur the construction of 1.5 million sustainable homes. That means that there will be a lot of jobs created. And also it will benefit other countries who want to export cement, building material, construction material into the US, because there will be a huge demand in the US for the next 4 years. The last policy that we want to discuss is the foreign policy. Joe Biden wants to make America to be a respected country again. He wants to improve the relationship between US and other countries. So we expect to see more and more like bilateral trade agreement, multilateral trade agreement between US and other countries. So let's take a look at some of the countries, for example. Let's say for India. Actually, Joe Biden has been very supportive on US and India relation since he was the vice president during President Barack Obama. So we expect this relationship to continue. However, he criticized human rights issue in India, which Indian government will have to try to solve the issue. So we have to see how that will work out during his term. Now for ASEAN, Joe Biden might consider joining CPTPP. This will benefit the ASEAN member who already be in CPTPP to export construction material into the US. Now, same thing with Thailand. We hope to see
more renegotiation on GSP list that will help benefit Thailand to export construction material, agriculture, cement, building material into the US. Now, the last country that we want to discuss is China. We hope to see more collaborative between US and China to combat with COVID-19. We might see some renegotiation on tariff list to benefit both countries. But Joe Biden wants to build a global coalition to pressure China into liberalizing its economy. So we have to wait and see how it will turn out. Trade war is still going to be there, for sure. Whether it's going to be more tense, or more ease off a little bit, we just have to wait and see for the next 4 years. That's it for US Update today. Thank you very much. And back to you, Khun Panuwat.
And thank you very much, Khun Natawut, for sharing with us. We hope to see some positive changes from the US very soon, as it will affect the rest of the world. Now let us move to the southern hemisphere of the Pacific. Mr. Sutisin, our Australian office manager, has been on ground in Sydney since the beginning of this year. May I invite Mr. Sutisin to please share and update us about what's going on in Australia?
Good day, mate. So in the year of 2020, Australia are trying to recover from the bushfire, the flood, and then the COVID hit us. So right now the country is in recession. The key indicator of this year, GDP is still at -7. Unemployment rate is very high at 6.9%. What happened in the country is the activity are contracted sharply. The government are trying to issue a lot of policy to support the business and the individual. And then this year, we have the trade tension between China and Australia. Looking forward to next year, what are we forecasting? We forecast that the GDP will be at the plus zone at 3%. Unemployment rate are still higher than 6%. We're forecasting that the unemployment rate will go below 6% by the year 2024. Next year, the business industry performance are going in many directions. But if we are looking at the construction, the manufacturing, and the public sector, we are forecasting that it will have the setback. So next year, the government federal budget for year 2021, the government are trying to have the tax relief, about 17.8 billion, which this one will be directly benefit to about over 11 million individual across the country. The second one would be manufacturing, that would be expanded by the budget of 1.5 billion. And the third one would be 1.9 billion of the new energy technology, which is a part of the low immersion technology investment roadmap over 10 years that hoping to create job and more export of the country in the long run. The fourth one will be 800 million digital business plan to support the startup. Australians are trying to create a Silicon Valley of our own. The last one will be 17 billion budget for transportation infrastructure, which is a part of the 110 billion government investment in infrastructure over the 10 years. This one, we're hoping that it will boost the employment rate, it will boost the construction sector, and it will boost the public sector. Look at the next year growth economy for each state. We forecasting that North Territory and the West Australian will come among the first with the percentage of 5.1 and 4% because of the low infected of COVID in that region. So these two regions have the first start before anyone else. So they have a high growth. And coming in last will be Victoria, is about 1.8% growth rates because they got hit by the second wave. So they have the late start. However, Victoria have the enormous potential of growth, which we will have to see in the future. Earlier, we were talking about China and Australian trade tension. So the tension was been building up for years. It's starting since 2017, 2018, and then in year 2019, Australian government is the first country to reject Huawei to join the 5G network for the country. And then in year 2000, we have the series of incidents or activity that create more tension between the two countries. For example, in April, China was imposed 80% of tariff on Australian barley. And then China has also banned the import from the big four Australian abattoir, which affecting the meat industry. And then in August, there's an anti-dumping of Australian wine in China. And earlier this month in November, China has also imposed the new live seafood inspection check for mineral and metal. This one is affecting the lobster export from Australia to China. We also heard that there will be more bans along the way. This will be affecting Australian wine, the lobster, the copper, the sugar, timber, and coal. So in the future, we don't know yet what is going to happen. We will have to look and see. So the question would be, can Australia dump China amidst this trade tension? In short, I would say no. It will be very difficult for Australia not to rely on the big market like China, but Australia might take this opportunity to lessen the dependence from this market and look for the new market. Over the years, Australia are looking at India and Vietnam as the potential market. However, those countries are still lack of the scale to substitute the China demand for Australian commodity. So Australia are looking at the Southeast Asia as a region to be the potential market. That was hoping that to shift the focus of China market to other market to lessen the tension for the export and the trade. This might not be the silver bullet, but it might have some good effect in the future. So as you might heard from the news that lately, Australia, Thailand, or even China has signed the agreement for the RCEP. So we will see that what will have a good effect in the future. Talking about the opportunity between Australia and Thailand, I think that there might be some potential because Thailand is on the number 16 export market of Australia, and Thailand is also the third largest market for barley that Australian export to. And then there are another product that we might have some potential. Let's say Thailand importers are preferred aluminum scrap from Australia because they have the high percent of the copper. And with the government investment plan for the infrastructure, we're just hoping that with the network of SCG, we hope to supply some of the construction material to support all those projects. And lately this year, SCGs also start to import coal from Australia. And I believe up to now, we are on the third vessel. So as you can see, there will be a lot of business opportunity that will yet to be discovered. And let's keep on looking. So today, that's it for me about Australia. Thank you. Have a good one.
And thank you very much, Kun Sutisin. We hope to see you back in Bangkok very soon. Just a quick reminder for those who have questions, please don't forget to leave your questions in the chat. Next up is our South Asia region. India and Bangladesh also have very high cases of COVID-19. But recently, it seems like the cases are lowering at the moment. May I now please invite Mr. 𝐼𝐴𝐿 Tipiyavong, our South Asia Regional Manager, who is here with us today, to share about the latest COVID situation and how it's impacting the region.
And very good morning to all our trade partners and all SCG patrons in this room and then attending virtually via Zoom. This is the final part of just shortly before we are taking a break. So we won't take much of your time to walk you through the whole region of what we are doing here in South Asia, Middle East, and Africa. First, let's have a look at India. India has been our main sourcing hub for ceramic tiles and industrial supplies to Thailand and ASEAN, Africa, Middle East, and USA. While it is a vast market for packaging and our building materials, and then we are also looking into the some HVA of the chemical that would really specify commodities. For Bangladesh, Bangladesh is a net importer, so we try to do more of a local sourcing, local sales. And on the market side, Bangladesh, of course, remain our long-term strategic market for clinker building materials and with potential in coal and agricultural business. For the UAE and Middle East, we have been sourcing recycled paper, gray and white clinker, including aggregate and limestone, back to Bangladesh, and then perhaps some other new markets. And during the lockdown for about 3 months, you would see that UAE was the only market that absorbed the capacity of our building material during those times. And then it's remained potential for the, all the packaging and the healthcare too. First, next, let's drill down to India, country by country. Let's see what we are doing in India. Starting with the overview of business highlight, of course, this pandemic year, India GDP expected to contract by 10%, but it will come back strongly by 8.8% in the next fiscal. And in fact, we already see some clear sign of recovery. You can see from all this manufacturing index, all this FDI inflow starting from September, and all the indices continue to improve. And let's not forget that the Indian middle class, 80 million today, will grow to 580 million, and that's over 40% by the next 5 years. Another interesting thing is the Indian average age is only 27 years old, and that's really good for long-term investment. That's why India is ranked, in the top 15 in many fields, all this ICT, innovation, and all R&D. So this is our Prime Minister. You can see his confidence, and during the pandemic, he has come out to announce this self-reliant India, to be manufacturing hub of the world. And this is a really fundamental factor that BJP, led by our Prime Minister, has won the second-term election with the strong alliance support. So that means the continuity in the ruling party. So he has emphasized all these factors that will India, mainly the economic quantum jump, the modern infrastructure, technology and system-driven, vibrant demography, and then the full utilization of demand and supply. Now let's have a closer look of the what is more related to us, construction sector. As everyone may have heard, India is now running into acute shortage of labor. A lot of projects running behind the timeline. So there's a critical need to bring in all these construction technologies. We will see more of the off-site prefabrication, modular, or the precast, and all the development in urban and rural India, including renovation to meet the new norms. So really big opportunity for our building materials and our building technology to be transferred and work with our developer in India. On the other industries, ceramic industry is, of course, one of the fastest growing industry, at about 8%. And then very great news to all of us in this room, and that we have, you can see the volume of ceramic that we have escalated from 30,000 last year to about 500,000 this year. And then next year, we expect to hit 1 million square meter. This is out of India to all destinations, ASEAN, US, the Gulf, and Africa. On the packaging industry, we can cover a wide range of from the upstream of recycled paper to the semi-finished, and then to the downstream of the packaging and all the coated paper. online digital, this is the indispensable part of our business in India. So that's why we also develop our own platform. You can see the Smart Build platform in the middle. And then we also integrate and plug with all the leading e-commerce platform in India, namely Build and Supply, Brick and Bowl, and then McCoy Mart. And we hope by this way to bring in more business for all our physical distribution trade partners. On the chemical industry, chemical is one of the biggest GDP contributor in India. But what we are looking at is we try to diversify from commodity grades to higher value added product. And that's what we will introduce to all our trade partner. So that's a quick sharing for India part. Next, I'd like the stage of Mr. Chin, who will give you a quick tour of Bangladesh. Please be invited on the stage. Dhanjawad.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Akalapon. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning to everyone. Today, I would like to share market outlook for Bangladesh. First, I would like to start with the economic. Bangladesh is the one of the most fastest growing country with a GDP growth around 6 to 7% in last 5 years. However, due to the effect of COVID-19, the estimated GDP growth will reduce to 3.8% and be recovery back to 5.7% in next year. As a result, the government will focusing more on agriculture, medical, and construction, which will domestic demand. In terms of ease of doing business, Bangladesh has slightly improved to 168 out of 190 from the world ranking. For the population, Bangladesh is the one of highest population density in the world, with the population around 161 million. And the country size smaller than Thailand, about 3 times. For the internet user, Bangladesh has 55 internet penetrations, or equal to 92 million internet users. And the e-commerce market trends will increase double size in next 3 years. So this is very good trend for digital and e-commerce platform in Bangladesh. At the bottom right, you can see some of the mega projects in pipeline that will be finished in next 3 years, such as new terminal at Dhaka Airport, metro rails, and medical projects. If we talk about business opportunity and industry specific, for cement industry, Bangladesh is the one of the biggest market of cement for SCG. We have export around 3.6 million tons in 2019. And the market demand still continuously increase around 6.7% in every year. And the consumption per capita just only 164 kilograms, which much lower than the world average. And currently, we have import share about 20%. These are very good opportunity for cement and building materials products in Bangladesh. Regarding to the garment industry, Bangladesh is the second world largest exporting apparel countries. All those well-known brands such as H&M, Zara, Adidas, Tommy are producing from Bangladesh because Bangladesh has the lowest minimum wage and good labor skill. If we talk about products related to this segment, are the tapioca starch, sackcloth, virgin craft liner, medium corrugated, as well as chemical products such as PP yarn, HDPE, and PP film. That's all for Bangladesh. I hand over the stage back to MC. Thank you so much, Donabat.
Thank you, Mr. Akalapon and Mr. Chin, for sharing your insights about India and Bangladesh. And now we have come to the final 2 regions for today, Last but not least, the Middle East and Africa. Please welcome Mr. Tirayut, who will be joining us via Zoom from Dubai.
Thank you very much คุณพานุวัฒน์ Let's move to the Middle East region มาฮาบาสวัสดีครับ The Middle East region supposed to recover 2.6% GDP growth by next year, mainly derived from digital economy, the positive federal budget, and from non-oil business transformation. The digital economy, the UAE, Qatar, and the Saudi Arabia, they put the digital ecosystem to their national plan 2021. Also, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it impacts a lot with the customer behavior in this region. As per the report, the online shopping and the e-commerce grow up 55% when comparing with last year. The UAE and the Saudi Arabia, they set the positive budget more than 100 billion USD in order to drive the in-country economy. Majority they focus to boost the supply chain, the trading, the construction, and the logistics sector. For the non-oil business transformation in the Middle East is still implemented here. The UAE government they aim to build Dubai as a world trading hub under the concept Fourth Industry Revolution strategy. Next, let's see what the Arab countries they adapt themselves during the COVID-19 situation. Look at the airline industry. The Emirates Airline, the top world-class airline in the world, they reconfigure their Airbus A380 aircraft, which can handle 550 passenger load to be the air cargo load. This quick action can help Emirates Airlines survive during the crisis. The revenue from the cargo increasing from 15% to be 55%. The new technology of the transportation in this region. Last 2 weeks, UAE just successfully to test the first passenger travel on the Hyperloop pod. This Hyperloop pod is under construction between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. It can shorten the time from 1 hour to be only 15 minutes transport. And even the Middle East region is plenty of the national resource, but their leader, they still remind to their new generation that the oil is the limit resource. It will gone in the new future. They encourage the new project to their children by develop the Hope Probe project mission to the Mars. UAE is the first Arab world to achieve this mission. I would like to share some business opportunity for the Middle East. Packaging industry. Since the COVID-19 pandemic in this region, the demand of online shopping activity jumped to 200 billion USD market size, or 55% growing when comparing with the same period in 2019. I can say that it's very convenient for us to do the online shopping here. For example, when I want to order the food, I can wait only 30 minutes. If comparing with last year, I have to wait 1.5 hours. This customer behavior create big opportunity and demand for the packaging business. Middle East region have the huge demand for box, both food grade and industry grade. Since SCG International Middle East DMCC sitting here, we already developed the recover paper and sent back to our plant to Thailand. The construction industry, COVID-19 pandemic impact with the real estate sector a lot. It will be big change, but still positive change for us for the building material business. Arabic people and expat people, they worry about their safety in healthcare. They move out from high-rise apartment to the low-rise villa. That's why the demand of the villa increasing by 20 to 25% this year. Home decorative, ceramic tile, sanitary ware, and other construction material might be required for the villa construction. Within 2019, UAE aims to have 25% material from 3D printing. In this region, will be the big opportunity for the specialty cement, mortar for 3D printing, and other accessories might be required in this sector as well. To see the good news, last week, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Dubai ruler, he got the vaccine from Sinopharm. The Chino farm is in cooperation between China and the UAE government. This one can show that the UAE government they highly concerned for the medical segment. It will be create a big opportunity for other business as well, like the medical and hygiene product. Next, we move a bit to Africa regions. Africa is also our focus area for SCG International due to 3.7% GDP growth forecasting, which drive for mega project and food sustainability program budget allocation. When we consider in detail, we can see that North Africa, Central Africa, and South Africa are planned to build new cities in order to improve their infrastructure. For example, Cairo City, they plan to expand their new capital city, which 45 kilometers east of existing Cairo, under 45 billion USD investment plan. For the Kenya, the Central Africa, they plan to upgrade their capital city Nairobi to be the African Silicon Savannah, to be the biggest IT city in the east coast of Africa, with the 15 billion USD investment plan. In the south, we can see Johannesburg in South Africa also plan to build a new city with 10 billion USD budget. Everyone know very well that Africa still have problem with the poverty rate. Kenya government, they plan to improve their agricultural productivity by invest 8 billion USD to improve the agricultural system. This might be our big opportunity for the agricultural business as well. Last slide. We can see that the construction industry in Africa plan to grow 6.4% by next year. It creates huge demand for the construction materials, ceramic tile, sanitary ware, also other home improvement products. For the agricultural sector, it's the main sector for Africa as well. Around 70% of African people, they still work in the farm. This sector contributes around 32% of GDP. Kenya, Tanzania, and Ethiopia government, they improve their agricultural productivity by import farming equipment, fertilizer, with import volume last year around 11 billion USD. This is the big demand for the agricultural machinery as well. Last but not least, if everyone want to do the business or need to get the new partner in both Middle East and Africa, please feel free and contact me anytime. Thank you very much. ชุกรันครับ May I hand over the stage to Mr. Banuwat ครับ
Thank you, Mr. Thirayut. We hope you're doing well in Dubai. And this concludes our global economic update and key changes from our office managers. Before we move on to the next session, I believe we have a few minutes for the Q&A from our audience via Zoom. I actually received many questions from the online chat, but I'll take this opportunity to just select a few questions with the time that we have. The first question will be directed to the ASEAN region. What are the pros and the cons of the RCEP? Mr. Yongyot, would you like to answer that question?
Thank you very much. It's one good question because I just present about the RCEP move on. So regarding the pro or advantage, if you think about in ASEAN, only the ASEAN 10 countries, we have only the population, the market size, only the 350 million populations. And if we look over for the RCEP 15 countries, we found that we have the 2.2 billion populations. Of course, they can refer to the bigger size of market, bigger demand. And we can, 2.2 billion, 30% of world population is a quite significant number for scale up at the market to serving, to absorb your product, your production. Anyway, if you talk about cons in terms of disadvantage, basically, frankly speaking, I don't think about this disadvantage. I'm thinking about this is a room, this is an opportunity for improve our local producer, our local industry. Look over about the, from total supply chain. Total supply chain. If we think about the energy sort of supply, raw material sort of supply, come to the good source, in the ASEP country. Come to the good sort, good price, good delivery. So come to your production process. Have the technology putting in your production process, and go to be the semi-finished products or finished products. After that, you do the best logistics, do the best supply chain, supply the product to your customers. If you think about the supply, you can have a lot of opportunity for lean the process, lean the cost, build the cost efficiency to win the game. So that's why the disadvantage to be turned to be your improvement of your industry. Of course, in the ASEP, a lot of the product fund flow, money fund flow, technology fund flow. How can we, ASEAN country, can absorb? How can our 10 countries can leverage the technology, leverage the fund, FDI from the overseas to be capture the opportunity and build up our capability on our local. I think that this is a good opportunity. Yes, of course, some disadvantage, but we can leverage with the opportunity that improve our ASEAN industry sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kun Yong-Yot. I hope that's sufficient information for the answer. The second question will be for India. Is there any incentive stimulus program to boost the business from the COVID-19 effect? Mr. Akrapon, would like to answer that?
That's what I thought everyone would be looking into this. So just last week, India has released the third, but may not be the final stimulus package, worth a total of $120 billion US. After the first two were not very impressed by the analyst investor, as it stood about 2% of GDP. But the third one, making this huge amount, it stands about 15% of GDP. And it's covering across various sectors. Just to name a few that's more related to us. There has been a heavy injection into the infrastructure to even further modernize and to create millions of jobs. And also the demand booster in the real estate sector, especially the residential, to give you the tax relief for the developers and then also the buyers. There's also the scheme that would SME, or in Thailand is SME, would get a 1-year break from repaying your debt, or called 1-year moratorium, and then you get another 4 years extended period to repay your debt. So those we hope really boost the construction demand sector. And in terms of the agricultural, there's about 650 billion rupee subsidy to ensure the supply of fertilizer. And then also some other various packages that help manufacturing sectors. So you can see it's really all inclusive and covering many sectors. Those are just to name a few. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akrapon. I think we can squeeze in one more question. I think a lot of us here would like to hear from China. Mr. Kasun, are you ready? China, why and how did China recover so fast from the pandemic?
Okay. Because they strictly control. When they said lockdown in China, it's been lockdown. You know what? Wuhan is be locked down for 2 months, 2 weeks and 2 days. And 57 people could not go anywhere at that time. And nobody come in, nobody go out. And another thing is they're making decisions very fast. When Wuhan first locked down on that day, you know what? The case is just about, the whole country is just about 2,000 only. And in Hubei province, it's only 1,000. But the government decided to lock down the country. Another example is what happened last week. There are 4 new domestic cases in Tianjin municipality. And one of the 4 have traveled to one county in Hebei province. That guy's only one guy from the 4 traveled to Hebei province. And that guy tested positive on Thursday last week. On Friday, the government announced to lock down the county, which affects to 60,000 people. And the last example for me is about foreigner. Every foreigner, if you need to come back to China right now, you have to be tested for COVID-19 positive for 4 times. The first time before, the second time after arriving to the airport, the third time after
14 days before you finish the quarantine, and the last time after 21 days. So I would say that to answer your question, they control very strictly and making the fast decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kasun. And I believe that's the end of our first session with our local experts from overseas. Thank you all our office managers for spending time with us today. Let us now move on to the second session of the day. The supply chain disruption is undeniably a factor that every company has to face this year. We have invited speakers today who will be able to provide us with solution guidelines and best business practices that could be adjusted to our business. May I now introduce Dr. 𝐿𝐥𝐨𝐻 𝐶𝐿𝐴 th lecturer of the Faculty of Communication Arts at Chulalongkorn University and an international news commentator, as our moderator for the next session. May I now hand over the stage to Dr. 𝐿𝐥𝐨𝐻.
ขอบคุณคุณอ๋องนะครับ สวัสดี Good morning ladies and gentlemen and all participants who joined today's session virtually and physically here with us. I'm so thrilled and so excited and feel very honored to be the moderator of today's session of Global Update 2020 in this session, making a breakthrough after supply chain disruption. As we have heard that COVID-19 brought a lot of changes, but not all of them are bad. Like today, without COVID-19, we wouldn't have this blended session like this. I think it's really amazing that we can have all participants to join us from around the world that like we have experienced it before. And for this session, we will talk more on the impact of COVID-19 on global transportation and supply chain and what we can learn to adapt. Together with me, we will have three distinguished speakers to share his insight and visions with us. The first one, Mr. 𝐵𝐴𝐺𝐻 Datta, Managing Director, SCG International Corporation, on how SCG International responds to disruption. And the second, Mr. Edwin Pinto, Commercial Director for DHL Global Forwarding or DGF Thailand on supply chain disruptions. And the last one, Dr. Chawapol Jariyarod, Manager of Amazon Web Services on art of the possible manufacturing and supply chain. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to bring you to each of our panelists' presentation. And after that, we're going to have a panel discussion so that the distinguished three speakers will talk and share their ideas with us on Q&A sessions. Not to further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Mr. 𝐵𝐴𝐺𝐻 Datta, Managing Director of SCG International Corporation. Please welcome on his stage and his topic on how SCG International responds to disruptions. Please.
So welcome back, everyone, to the second session. We are approaching the highlight of this morning. I'm just going to warm you up a little bit, but the highlight that you really want to listen to is our two external speakers today. So what we did at SCG International during the COVID period is that we tried to look at the trends that are impacting the world and specifically that are impacting SCG International. And we tried to prepare ourselves for this new normal. And you have them up on the slide. I'm going to just talk about two or three of the main ones. The first one is self-reliance. This is an extremely important trend because a number of countries decided if disruptions really cause such a lot of havoc in countries, then it makes sense in trying to shorten the supply chain. It makes sense in trying to do more things locally. And serious countries, like for example, you just heard Kun Akarapon talk about self-reliant India. They are even talking about local brands. Go local is a slogan that they are trying to do. There's talk about a lot of manufacturing moving out from some countries, moving into other countries. So that's one trend that we want to look at. The second one is that the construction site itself is going to look very different. Typical construction sites are lots of labor, lots of dust, lots of materials, but in the future we are going to see a construction site where not much is happening because everything is happening off-site. So you have modular constructions and the construct becomes more of an assembly. And finally, of course, digital channels. We've talked a lot about it, how digital channels are going to disrupt traditional physical distribution channels. So I'd like to just quickly touch upon one or two things that we did. We have launched an e-commerce marketplace platform called Big Thailand. And this is a marketplace targeted towards small and medium enterprises here in Thailand. The segments that we are looking at are the automotive segment. So we have small repair maintenance shops who need to consume lubricants. So our sellers are those who are producing these lubricants and tires and spare parts. The second segment is the farming segment, where they are using different kinds of equipment. You see a picture of an ATV on the screen. And so marketplace platform is intended to solve some of the pain points where we provide a complete supply chain solution to small and medium enterprises in Thailand. We intend to do this here first in Thailand and then try to see how we can scale it up elsewhere. So we are in the starting stages of this. The second one is a sustainability initiative, which is electric vehicles. We are very interested in the trend, which is internal combustion engine gradually reducing market share and moving more towards electric vehicles. We have partnered with some principals internationally, and we have started introducing some electric vehicle products. But more importantly, we're working on a complete solution which focuses on the maintenance aspect and also on the technology solution so that we can build an ecosystem to do this. And finally, and I think very importantly, we cannot forget our core trading business. This is really our key strength. This is what gives us 80%, 90% of our revenue, and we have to continue to focus on this, strengthen this. And this is also a business that can be improved. And so what we have focused on is flexibility. So we have focused on increasing the number of sources, increasing our customer base, going into new markets like we have gone into Europe, we've gone into China. China is a very big market for cement. We never had that earlier. This year we plan to do about 1 million tons in China. We're very happy about that. We've moved into Europe for building materials. We've moved into Africa. In terms of sources, we have increased our sourcing of recycled paper from US, Australia, and some other countries like Cambodia. Thank God we were able to do that because our traditional sources were quite stuck because of social distancing and COVID. So that is a very quick roundup of what we tried to do, and I'm sure you will be more than interested now to listen to our external speakers. So without further ado, let me quickly invite on stage Mr. Edwin Pinto. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is the slide going to come up? My name is Edwin Pinto. I'm the commercial head for DHL Global Forwarding in Thailand. We heard all this morning about the impact that everyone has felt from COVID. It's amazing what one small virus has done to all of us. We've been impacted personally as well as across our businesses. So I won't talk too much about what the virus has done, but I want to talk over 20 minutes or so about the impact that this virus has had on international trade, more from a supply chain point of view. So I hope that after 20 minutes, I have probably been able to share some perspective. Everybody can take some perspective about the impact that the supply chain disruption has had on all of us. So the first point, so if what I've tried to do here is you look at the whole ecosystem here, right from manufacturer to buyer, and in one screen you can see the stakeholders in the ecosystem, right from the manufacturer to the whole transportation supply chain, right? Freight forwarders, ports and shipping lines and airlines and customs, etc. All of these stakeholders did something to protect themselves during this last 6 months or 8 months since we've all been impacted. And look at what has happened to the trade. This is a snapshot of April 2020. Look at what happened to the industries. You see raw materials down 7%, automotive industry down 25%, consumer goods down 10%, chemicals up 4%. But guess what? What is those chemicals that contributed? Is hand sanitizers and disinfectants and soaps, right? So the only industry that remained positive in the real sense was the high-tech industry. And that was really led by the solar boost that the industry is having because of the biggies like Google and Microsoft using solar now to power their data centers. But other than that, everybody, look at machinery parts, says -1%, but 36,000 containers of is face masks being categorized as machinery parts in the data. Let's look at what happened to the air freight industry. This slide, in the sense, you can put a lot of data, and in the future, in the coming slides, there is a little bit more that we will talk. But this one slide tells you the impact that it has had on freight forwarders and airlines. Freight rates in the month of April went almost up 80%, right? Right now, it is settling at around 55%. We call this jokingly the new normal, right, for air freight industry. But in the last couple of months, the volatility has increased again, and we see this trend going. We'll talk a little bit more later on this. Look at what happened to ocean freight. The market in 2020 is expected to go down 14%. During the 2008-9 recession, it went down by 9%. And now we're talking about 14%. That's the impact that this has had on trade. And everybody, why do I present the slides this way? On the next slide, you see all the stakeholders responded, right? There are governments who responded, the airlines responded, the shipping lines responded, ports and airports responded, third-party logistics providers like THL responded, and the buyers and manufacturers also responded. All this, whatever every single person did, impacted everybody else. And when everybody responded to protect their own interests, it has had a ripple effect on the trade. It has had a ripple effect on the trade because it cannot be a coordinated impact. We think that lockdown is going to end, but it ends somewhere and it starts else, right? And global supply chains impacted, I think, almost every country. I think no stakeholder remained insulated from this situation. You look at what airlines had to do. Because you cannot travel, the tourism industry was impacted. So the passenger aircrafts stopped flying. You know what? 90% of cargo in air freight goes in the belly capacity of the aircraft. And now that capacity went out of the market. Airlines had to readjust. I saw in the Dubai presentation that Emirates converted the A380 to carry cargo. Almost all airlines did that. Right now, as we talk, and it's in the next slide there, almost 50% of the capacity for cargo comes out of cargo aircrafts, with many airlines converting their passenger capacity to carry cargo, including folding the seats and somehow managing to put cargo in there. Shipping lines, everybody thought that volumes are going to go down. In April, shipping lines cut out 20% of the market capacity. That's huge, right? Along with that, they took ships out of service, and along with that, they introduced what is called blank sailings. That means normally a ship arrives at a port once every week. Suddenly, they would announce next week there's no ship, right? Because they don't want to come in there and not have sufficient containers to go. So these are the things that people did, and the ones at the end who suffered, right, is the manufacturer and the buyers. We won't read everything, but really going to the last point, it brought prices up, right? And all of us ended up paying a higher cost to serve. What did third-party logistics providers do? Without going into too much detail, but we had to move out of what we call long-term contracts to short-term contracts. All of us are used to signing up air freight rates and sea freight rates for a one-year contract or something like that. That was no more a reality because this fluctuation was not a 5% fluctuation. This fluctuation was 80% in air freight. As we speak now, the scenario in ocean freight has completely changed. In the first 3 or 4 months, the ocean freight rates remained at a normal level, but they took out capacity. Because of the e-commerce boom in the US, the whole volumes have increased now. And Kundatta talked about containers are not available anymore. And that's the reality, right? And we see that. Freight rates have increased 4 times in ocean freight. And even if you're willing to pay 4 times, there's no guarantee of equipment availability. That is the situation, what I talked about, the ripple effect, right? Because everybody has reacted in a way that suits them most. Look at that. The demand in air freight went down 28%. It's improving slightly, but that is what happened from April to August, and then it's remained in that level. I talked about the supply position. You see, the supply position is down 38% right now compared to the same period last year. However, passenger flights used to provide almost 85 to 90% of capacity. That is now up to 47%. Almost half the capacity comes from cargo aircrafts. That's driving the prices up. In ocean freight, they took out the capacity. It's slowly now capacity and demand are meeting somehow. From September onwards, we are seeing a strong rebound in the volumes across all trades, across Trans-Pacific, across Oceania. Equipment shortage and a big problem of infrastructure meltdown in the US. The ports in the US are not able to handle the volume that has come through. What that means is containers that are going from Asia are going to the US, but we are not able to bring them back fast enough, which means, therefore, we don't have, again, containers available to go back to the US, and that is driving prices up, literally driving prices up 3 times and 4 times the normal price. The last line, a deal is not a deal anymore. A deal is not a deal anymore, and that's the reality of today's logistics industry, both at the airline point of view and the shipping line point of view. It's literally an auction out there. It's literally an auction out there. And when we talk about deal is not a deal anymore, we are not talking about a 1-month deal or a 1-year deal. We are sometimes talking about a deal for the sailing. It is literally like, I have containers available. You need to confirm back in the next 3 hours whether you want these containers. Otherwise, the price is different. These are the realities, right? So a deal is not a deal anymore is not just a statement, it's the reality there. That's the impact on the logistics industry. Just to make it more authentic, I pick up for you the news clips, and these are not old. Some of them are November, right? The container shortage worsens even for premium services. Australia, we had the port strike in Australia. Some of you may have been impacted with that. The demand for containers and air freight capacity out of Asia going to Europe and to Latin America and to the US is at an all-time high. This has put a completely different spotlight on the freight forwarding industry. Customers or industries that were typically used to working on direct contracts with shipping lines and direct contracts with truck vendors, etc., are now coming to freight forwarders to look at alternate solutions, right? Solutions out of the box, multimodal solutions. So hopefully that gives a stage of the situation that we are in from a global trade perspective. What was DHL's response? In the sense, I break that down in three ways. What did we do? We were as impacted as everybody else because we are in 220 countries. DHL has 4 business units. I represent the business unit called DHL Global Forwarding, which is more into international air freight, ocean freight, customs, and stuff like that. But then DHL has DHL Express, DHL e-commerce, and DHL supply chain, right? And our corporate strategy is, or a corporate purpose is connecting people and improving lives. And really speaking, this was a time where we had to, live our purpose to the fullest. Right, so the message from the top was talk to customers, understand what's going on, and do the best that we can do to support the situation. So that's what we tried to do. So we did it both sides. With our supply partners, we encouraged fast and transparent dialogue, and the industry, as we heard from all the presentations, the segment that grew the fastest during this time is e-commerce. And within our company, we see the advance of the developments on the e-commerce side by almost 5 years. What we were expecting to happen 5 years from now happened in the last 3 years. So we just had our Q3 results, and our global CEO mentioned especially the developments on the e-commerce side. And in the last 6 months, we have expedited developments, investments on the e-commerce side from the fulfillment point of view. We also expedited a lot of digital initiatives, more from a visibility point of view or from resilience tools or even robotics, etc. With customers, again, we encouraged more and more dialogue, partnership kind of an approach rather than give the rate out there, because the rate is really become meaningless in today's situation. Because sometimes even if you are willing to pay the rate, it's not the same. So the whole concept for us was how can we work as partners to deliver a solution by talking and understanding what the real problem is and whether alternatives can be explored to current situations. So we did many things, and some of the solutions, like which generally people don't talk about in normal times, was we even air freighted containers, material loaded into containers, we've air freighted out of Thailand. Right? Because that was the solution at that time. That was the most cost-effective for the business of our customer, right? So material couldn't be taken out of containers. We put them into an Antonov and air freighted it to the US. That is possible. Or else, sending material from Europe using the rail route from China, right? Normally, we don't do it because there is no real value on the table. But in this current situation, that brought value to the table. But this was all possible with customers where we can have a frank and open dialogue. What we also did is, we increased a level of communication with the customer with the help of thought leadership webinars, like this one, which is going to happen tomorrow. You see, I think by now we have about 2,000 people signed up for this globally. And anybody who wants to sign up, this is the content is really great because we're talking about delivering pandemic resilience and transition to a new normal. Some of it, which we are talking about today, if anybody wants to sign up. Other than that, we spent a lot of time on engagement initiatives with our employees. Just like all of us were impacted, the 120 countries employees all started to work from home for a long time. And you know, we really are categorized as during this time as an essential services company, because you know, all of us were working, delivering goods and delivering value every day, and we spent as a company a lot of time on engagement initiatives. Key observations according to me, right, during this time. Businesses that had considered themselves to be resilient in their supply chains, they found out that they were not, right? Anybody who said they were are lying, right? Businesses and industries that had resisted change were forced to embrace it during this time. And consumers who were used to abundance found themselves facing scarcity. Everybody was impacted. The biggest guys who really thought that they have it all covered, the virus showed them that now it's... And tomorrow, it could be something else. It could be something that comes up with global warming. I don't know, right? That could trigger something else. The medium-term outlook, right? We are far from the end of the curve on COVID. I think the post-lockdown environment will continue to be volatile because there are economies opening and closing, and you know, India cases going down. Today I read it's going up again, right? And who knows when this ends? Vaccine is coming, and yes, it is, but it's also going to bring with it a lot of challenge. Vaccine logistics is going to be a challenge, and it will impact market capacities. Try to understand the volume impact. Somebody has put a number to it, and that's a conservative number. They said it will take 15,000 charters to fulfill the global demand. 15,000 charters. That takes 2 years. And when the vaccine is out there, it's going to take the highest priority. So everything else takes a backseat, right? We have to be aware of the impact that this can have on all of us. Because all of us use air freight. Thankfully, vaccines are going to fly and not really go by ocean. But it will impact logistics the way we see it today. And what I also see is the emphasis for procurement. All of us who are in the space of procurement, it's going to shift from procuring for cost, which was the norm, right? We were always trying to bring service to a point and then say, hey, at what price can we buy this? Now that is shifting from procurement for cost to procurement for resilience. Everybody wants to now make sure that their supply chains are resilient. Can we deliver even in the worst possible scenario? And we have to start thinking about what is the worst possible scenario. Hopefully during the Q&A we can talk a little bit more about that with examples. But while the exact shape of the new normal is not very certain, but some outlines, right? Supply chains will have to be reassessed. Absolutely, supply chains will have to be reassessed towards resilience, towards robustness, towards flexibility. We can't be doing things the way we were doing it. Today, if we were reaching the US only by shipping from Thailand to US by a container ship, you have to think about what are the other ways to do it. You have to think about, is there a different way to do it? And you have to test it and be ready. Because imagine if the port of Thailand is closed down because of 50 cases sudden in the port. What will you do? You have to think about what can be an alternative, a tried and tested alternative. So the BCPs that will need to be formed will have to be tested. Innovation and use of technology is going to be taking priority. All of us will have to be getting used to the new normal. And I have to say that supply chain and logistics is going to start playing a much more important role, not only in business strategies, but probably in corporate strategy as well. So with that, I think I've overshot my time by a couple of minutes, but thank you very much for listening and for having me here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edwin Pinto, Commercial Director for DHL Global Forwarding or DGF Thailand. Thank you for sharing your visions and observations on supply chain disruptions. And just like Mr. Pinto mentioned that during the COVID-19 pandemic, actually, if we look at some of the business that be a survivor and enjoy the growth during this COVID-19 situation, it's e-commerce. So ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to bring all of you to listen about art of the possible manufacturing and supply chain from the country manager of Amazon Web Services. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Chawapol Jariya-Virod.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Well, first of all, it's my pleasure, and thank you, SCG Kunapijit, for allowing me the opportunities to be sharing how Amazon and AWS look at transformation, disruption, and also how we worked with our customers from all over the world, from multiple industries, from every single industry imaginable over the past 15 years. Disruption happens years ago. I mean, it doesn't just happen this year because of COVID, right? So it's just the speed and the scale of this disruption has never been this big and this frequent. And the impact of this disruption in the past, it's impact one or couple particular industries. But now with the economy become globalized, everything seems to be impacting everybody's. And the speeds of the impact and the scale of the impact is so vast. And it's not going to go away, right? So if you looked at the history, since 1955, right, only 88%, only 12% of the company on the Fortune 500 remains. Over the last 20 years, from the year 2000, less than 50% of the Fortune 500 companies remains. It used to be that once in the Fortune 500 list, you have an average times on the list for 75 years. And now those 75 years now, the average times of the company to be on the top 500 companies these days become only 15 years. So what does that tell you? That means everybody is subject to disruptions. You looked at these list of companies, right? What do you think they have in common? Sorry, the logo is getting smaller as there are many more happenings seems to be on a daily basis. A few of them are you are very familiar with. The Netflix of the world, Grabs, right? Ubers, Airbnbs, all of these are disruptors. Amazon once was a disruptor ourselves. As an organization, Amazon is about 25 years old. AWS is about 14 years old. We started from being a disruptors. But guess what? We never stopped disrupting ourselves. These companies coming in from nowhere, doesn't have a lot of resource, doesn't have a lot of money, doesn't have a lot of people, but they have the abilities to innovate faster. They have the agilities to come up with new ideas, the abilities to satisfy the unsatisfied needs of your customers. Right? Think about it. These needs are not new. It always exists. It's just never been anybody's that come up with the solutions to those needs for the customers. You look at it, anybody wanting to be watching a programs that you like anytimes and anywhere, right? We all want this like 40, 50 years ago. But it's only recently that you have companies like Netflix that has the ability to provide it to you while they are making the business cash, right? So the cost of delivering those services, those customer experiences, and the qualities of those, it brings your satisfactions, it gives you a new customer experiences. At the same time, it gives them a business models that is sustainable. Anybody has been wanting to be, they have the abilities to call your transportation at any times and from anywhere, right? Years ago, right? But it's just not like, you never wanted to have that. Just like you never have the abilities to have applications like Grab, Uber, or Lyft before. Everybody wants to have the ability to just being at homes and then wanting to eat something and then order something in, and those food is delivered to you within like 20, 30 minutes. Just like only recently that those services are available to you, right? So the ability is to recognize what are the unsatisfied needs, and has the abilities to continue to innovate, right, with speed, and the abilities for the organization to do that on an everyday basis is the key to handling disruptions and also manage the transformations and to yield result. There's a big gap, right? If you looked at every single industries today, no companies, right? There's no companies which are not talking about transformations. People start talking about transformation 5, 10 years ago. But you look at the times when companies realize there needs to make change, and when those changes are really made, the gap varied on companies, on industries. Now that because of these disruptions, we have seen more and more large companies, right, continuing to start asking yourself whether or not the status quo, it is going to really allow you to continue the growth and the business in the foreseeable future. Transformation actually started when you realize that you're not satisfying your customer needs anymore. And a lot of times it started from asking yourself all these tough questions. That the hypothesis of your business that has been guiding you for the last 50, 100 years, whether that's still hold through. Do you still know your customer? You think you know your customers. But is that the case? You know what they want? You know what they want? You know how they want it? You know when they want it? Is that? And basically, are you continue to deliver sticky customer experiences? Are you satisfying those needs better than anyone else? Are there unsatisfied needs that remains open for other disruptors to come in and take those businesses away? Amazon itself, we started out as a disruptor, as I mentioned. Over the last 25 years, we managed to business based on innovations. We continue to figure out new ways to satisfy our customers. Anything that we do at Amazon starts from our customers, and we work backwards from there. So when we about transformations, always be, if you looked at it, it would be, we could separate it into two broad categories. The first category were what we call innovations, the ability to create new customer experiences that brings you new business revenue, new revenue streams. And the second track is what do you do in the back end to basically instill agility and operational efficiencies. How do you get better at managing cost? And at the same time, that brings those agilities into your ability to satisfy the customer needs. So there are a couple examples. I'd like to show the video quickly. Could you click on this video? So this is how we transform basically the customer experiences.
What would shopping look like
So
if you could
what is
walk
the
into a
most
store,
boring
grab what you
experience
want,
as a customer
and
would
just
have?
go?
It's waiting to
What if we could
queuing
weave the
to
most
pay.
advanced machine
Right,
learning,
so
computer
a
vision,
few years
and
ago,
AI
we came
into
up
the
with
very
this big
fabric of a
ideas
store,
of what
so
about
you never have to
we
wait
do
in
not
line?
have any
No
queue
lines,
at
no
all.
checkouts,
So what about we
no
don't pay at all? The customer don't have to make any payment, right? So we developed these technologies called Amazon Go. Register, tap in once, and that's all. You grab anything that you want, and then you walk out. So these technologies required a lot of, image recognitions on the ceiling. There's hundreds of cameras. We're not using, barcodes or whatever it is. We use motion sensors. Right? So, and all of these technology was put together because of one reason, because we believe that this created the best customer experiences.
Deep learning algorithms and sensor fusion, much like you'd find in
But given the times, I'm have to move on into the next question. Sorry, the next examples. So can you stop the video, please? All right. Okay. So that is a quick examples, right, of what Amazon Go is looking like. Just one of the 1,000 examples that we have done over the past 25 years. Now, we wouldn't have the abilities to deliver products to you within 2 hours, right? If our back end is not very effective. So a few years ago, this is what our fulfillment center, our warehouse is looking like. Products are stored by categories, right? Very natural. Every business do this. But imagine if you have millions, tens of millions of SKUs every day, and a customer ordered, 5 products, 5 items, 5 product categories. So we need to be hiring all these marathon runners to work in our data center, our fulfillment centers, right? So the size of these warehouses are like 10 soccer fields combined together. So that was in the past. For us to continue to create this new customer experiences. So this is what our, could you play the video, please? This is what our fulfillment centers today is looking like. Instead of us going out to the products, now the pickers are standing still and the products coming to us. So the product, instead of being stored by product categories, stored on the customer behaviors of what products are being ordered together. Right? So it's like a condos. So you look at each of these condos, it stores multiple categories of products. Right? So you are just sitting still, fulfill the orders. The robots bring all of these to you. The products that hardly or have such slow cycles keep getting pushed in further away. And then because of these, we have the ability to store much more products within the same real estate. Move on, please. So how do we do this, right? So we use computer visions. We have the ability to recognize what are the available spaces on each of these slots and what size of product does it fit in, right? And we have the abilities to know all of these, not just real time. We have the abilities to predict when are we going to run out of space, how are we going to be managing our supply chains, from the upstream to downstream. Apologize for moving on pretty quickly. I was given 20 minutes. And we are doing all of these. Imagine these are the amount of technologies that we push out to the market every year. So by 2020, this year, AWS has introduced over 1,000 new functionalities to the market. Think about it. Each day, we introduce 4 or 5 new technologies every day. So, and this is what you hear. Okay, this is what you'll be hearing a lot on when you talk about technologies. People talk about AI, machine learnings, IoT, blockchains, right? But at the same time, again, the back-end technologies like ERPs, database, all of these informations and all of these systems putting together properly that allows the organizations to bring all of this customer insight and then build new services that make differences for your customers. If you talk about the technologies that is in the middle of all transformation, it will be analytics and AI machine learnings. The ideas of, gathering and knowing what your customer needs, what your customer wants. And now customers and our organizations are now building what we call data lake. Why we call lake? Lake is like an ecosystem of data. Just like a lake, right? You have fish, you have crabs, you have squids, you have all sort of animals that living together and forming ecosystems. Data are the same. You have traditional data like what you have from your ERP system. And you have the new generations of data from your mobile applications, from the IoTs, from all of these technologies putting together. The power of these data happens when you combine all of these, right? And you start making sense out of this data. Then it gives you the abilities to, at the fundamental stage, is to optimize existing process. And then when you become better at it, you started to use those data to enrich your existing products or services. And then in many cases, all of these abilities leads to building your ability to build new products or services categories. I'd like to run through a few examples very quickly across multiple industries. Banking is the industry that's undergoing transformations the most in the past few years. You have banks and financial services regulators. FINRA is the financial service regulators in the US that monitors all trades and transactions in the US stocks market every day. They have 35 billion transaction happenings every day. So they need to have the abilities to monitor what are the transactions that potentially would be fraud. So instead of doing it manually, now they have a very smart system of AI machine learnings that has the abilities to predict and not just catching. They have the abilities to flag susceptible transactions for further investigations. Everybody know Moody's. They use advanced analytics to analyze industries based on data, not just based on experiences of the analyst. So these analytical system and machine learning provided them with the insights to the industries that no human has the abilities to do before. And if you look at one of the hottest topics, in financial services and supply chain, that is cryptocurrencies. Coinbase is one of the largest global cryptocurrency hubs, and using analytical advanced machine learning to identify potential fraud of this transaction. I think the ability is to have a full trust on the cryptocurrency platform is the key for the stability of the currencies. Large-scale global companies like GEs that has operation and services across industry like heavy manufacturing into healthcare services. GE for healthcare, for example, has a lot of imaging equipments out there in healthcare facilities. In the past, the doctor has to rely heavily on their experiences to look at films, to look at these scans, and then determine whether there's something wrong with the patient. And now they have the abilities to compare these with the data, right, of all customers throughout the world. By the way, there's patient confidentialities. But it's like, for example, if I'm 51 years old, male, Asians, you're going in and you have your scan, then the doctors would see comparables, Asian males, 50 years old, scans. So they have the abilities to have more data points to help them make decision and correct diagnosis. A lot of use in supply chains, this image recognition is not just to use to recognize your face, it's used to recognize brand names. The ability is to have that brands and image recognitions. Think about vending machines, for example. You have the abilities to take a snapshot of the logos on each of these vending machines every hours. It gives you hourly demands patterns of each of the products within each of the vending machines throughout, all of your distributions. And then what it gives you the abilities to predict what are the products that is most popular for each of these vending machines. It gives you data to plan your supply chains. There's a lot of cool services and technologies that every industry is using. Real estate industries, for example, is no more that you're reading from the magazines. You wanted to buy a house, you go over there and you take pictures of a house. It gives you comparisons of the house of the same style at the same location and the prices. If you want to sell your house, you take pictures of your house. It gives you comparable data of the house of the same style, same conditions, and the price that you probably wanted to consider selling it at. It gives you the abilities to know if you lower the price, what is the likelihood of you to increase your ability or shorten the time for you to sell it. Grammarly, if you have never used it, I would suggest you to use it. You type in sentences, it automatically corrects your grammar for you, right? So this use image and text recognition, it's not just recognizing what text it is. It has the ability to comprehend the intention and the understanding of those sentences, right? And has the ability to give out the recommendation. And lastly, this is autonomous car driving, and everybody is saying that it wouldn't work in Asia because we do not have a lot of disciplined driving, in this. But you look at it, this example of an autonomous driving car in a very, busy cities where it has the abilities to recognize whether there's an obstructions, and then it has the ability to go over the other lanes, right? And it's just like any, Asian drivers, it gives us a very instinctive abilities to do that. The biggest target for this technology, for this particular company, is not for commercial vehicles. They targeted it for, it's not for passenger vehicles, it's targeted for commercial vehicles, for trucks and for, to replace the truck drivers. British Petroleum's GE's company has undergoing major transformation with all of their back-end systems, the SAP system, the database system, to transform the organization, and that allows them to go and build the types of customers experiences that they're looking for. Then I don't have the opportunities to finish, all of these examples related directly to supply chains and logistics. But you have an access to the script and the slides. So in the slide, you see many examples of, specific example of how machine learning and AI's technologies is being applied to supply chains and logistic industries, and allows these industry to achieve all of these benefits. So with that times, if you have questions, then discuss more during the Q&A panel. With that, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chwapon, for your information. Is really amazing and eye-opening for me to see how Amazon manage all of this supply chain. And actually, if you eat a marathon, I can apply for that because I'm a marathon runner myself. Okay, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to invite our three speakers once again on the stage, and then we're going to have a panel discussion to talk further and deeper on the questions that I've got in my hands. So now, once again, I would like to invite speakers on the stage. One more time. Good morning. Now, I would like to ask 4 questions, and you can answer and share your point of view with me, and participants can look at the answer. And on the first one, okay, let's start from the first question. I would like to ask, what are the key learnings from COVID-19 situation that affected transportation and supply chain around the world? I think I would like to start this question from the HL experience first.
Yeah, I spoke a little bit about it in my presentation, but if I look at the key learnings, I would say that the shared transparency that that is required to make the supply chain more robust between various parties. The customer relationship that we have previously is really more client supplier relationship. We've seen the move towards becoming more partnership-based approach. Then, the other observation or the other learning that we have is, reliability of the supply chain is more important than the speed of the supply chain. That was something that stood out for us as we were working with customers. And someone, I think Mark Twain said, continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. And I think that came out a lot as a reality during this time. We have advised many of our customers, because the ecosystem was changing so rapidly that it is absolutely not possible to wait out there and tell or consult our clients that this is the solution we must go. So we presented options, and we said let's go with something together, and we will learn together and implement at a later stage what is the best situation. And and finally, actually, we learned that logistics and supply chain is going to play more and more important role in the way business is done and the way companies will function.
Yeah, thank you very much. And that's from the HL. And how about Amazon? What did you learn?
Right. We happen to be right in the middle of all of these. And so everything we do at Amazon, we started from, our customer. Our customer tell us, what business challenges that they're facing. And the thing with the situation is that the whole digital lifestyle adoptions, even though the trend started a few years back, but it was the first set of people were like the millennials, right? People with the, all of these, like the mobile bankings, all of these, online deliveries, online experiences, weren't really vastly adopted by the generations. But COVID kind of like, changed the whole thing. It's like people no longer have a choice. So during the this year, the demands for digital lifestyles and adoptions happen. It's not just in the e-commerce industry though, because once that grow, banking industries also change, right? So it's no longer, it accelerates the abilities, the requirement and demand for digital banks. And it's not just about digital banks, it's about banking functions. So there's a lot of people are saying that, well, we still need bankings, but we may not need banks. So, and that's, the fortunate thing is now every bank realizes that. So if you could see that this industry has undergoing a lot of transformation. And previously, I have to admit, I was one of the person that I did not have mobile bankings. My kids have. But ever since this situation, there's really no choice, right? If you don't have mobile bankings today, it's hard for you really to go through your life without using it. So that's just one quick example. Globally, Amazon hired 150,000 people since the start of the year, additional people to just to be able to cope up with the demands of all these digital transformations that happenings. So for us, the speed and the requirement of different industries is what telling us that we can never stop looking for new ideas to transform before you are being forced to transform. The second interesting thing is this. These use cases and these ideas started to crossbreed, across multiple industries. One thing's happening with a bank, and now you see banks talking to retails. You see, food delivery platforms are talking to banks, and everybody is like, talking to each other because, the idea is forming an ecosystem to deliver overall customer experiences. This is it's not a trend. This is something that has already happened, and it will continue because of the size and scale of the impact. It impacts everybody, right? So it's, to me, makes sense that everybody is putting their heads together and then figure this way out.
Yeah, I like the idea that if we have to survive, we have to survive together.
Right.
And that's why we need to join hands together, join heads together in order to create the new ecosystem, just like what you mentioned. And I couldn't believe that the country manager of Amazon didn't have online banking
before.
That's really amazing. Okay, now how about SCG, Mr. Data?
Yeah, just I think a couple of things. One is I think we learned that competency and abilities within the organization need to be distributed. We cannot be in a situation where we have over-concentration of capabilities and competencies in one particular area, let's say at our head office, whereas we are actually operating in 15 different countries. So we need to be close to the customer, and we need to be capable and able in those countries where we are. So we have something that we call an IO, international office-centric strategy, where we are trying to move and empower our countries. And I think COVID really taught us that we need to do that quickly. The second thing is, I think it's important, and I think both our speakers talked about it, ecosystem businesses. There is no way that we can succeed in this new environment if we go alone. And especially for SCG International, because we are really an intermediary. So we could be an intermediary for products or solutions or technology, but we really need to build an ecosystem so that we can together create value. So I guess those would be the two major learnings here.
Thank you very much. And if we talk about ecosystem, of course, one of the very important person in this ecosystem is our customer. And actually, we talk a lot about our customers. Then, how can we make them survive? Because if they couldn't survive, we cannot survive as well. I would like to ask, do you have any approach or anything that you help your customers to survive and to cope with this situation? I would like to start from Dr. Chwaporn first.
Okay, as Khun Abhijit mentioned, right, we believe that innovations, again, Amazon as the whole organization, we were defined by two things, innovation and culture. We believe that innovations happen on the end. It doesn't happen, in the center. Because think about it, right? In the world of global economies and our abilities to go and then, help our customers, you need to be there with your customers to know what they need, to know what they want. And the ability to innovate, to me, it is a duty, and not just to me, it's to our organization. That's what we believe. So everything that we do, every day, we have people who are telling us what they need, right? So I just already gave you a couple examples earlier, but you look at like healthcare industries. Ever since the start of this year, everyone knows what is the focus, right? Is to make sure that we come up with vaccines, right, as fast as possible. So we had the abilities to be right in the middle of it. In the past, every R&Ds rely heavily on huge computing capacity. So people were using mainframes and all and things like that. So even with the largest of the mainframes, that healthcare R&D required the biggest power because you have a lot of data and you need to have the abilities to come up with, multiple experimentations, right, as fast as possible. So instead of using one mainframe, we have the abilities to provide the capacity of 100 mainframes. Instead of using one mainframe and taking 100 hours, you have the ability to use a capacity of 100 mainframe and finishing that work within 1 hour. So the ability is to fasten and speed up these processes. And it's not just one particular company. These technologies is accessible to every healthcare industries. It's, if you're interested in these, there's a lot of these examples on our websites, publicly referenceable, information. And that make a huge difference. So we make, it's basically a mission critical types of contributions that we had the abilities to cope with. And at the same time, there's a lot of people who are in need, right? Think about it, if countries is during a shutdown and you don't have the abilities to order food, online, guess what would happen? You started to have riots, right? Because people would be fighting with each other. Remember, a few months back, right, at the start of COVID, you start to see violence, in some countries, just like they're fighting for a tissue.
Or tissue paper.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the abilities to, make sure that our supply chains and our abilities to satisfy these customer requirement is there. The abilities to know what they would need, when are they going to be needing those products ahead of times. So we have these technologies called DASH, very small buttons. So if you're using like detergents or tissue or consumable products, you are going to be run out of it. You don't need to go onto a website and press and do any order. Just press one button, within 2 hours that delivered to you. So with these types of data, you have the abilities to predict when those type of product is going to run out, when what types of logistics that would be required to go into that route. We have the drones to deliver some of the products to people who are not basically, living in the city areas. So those are the types of experiences that we allow our customers to satisfy those end users' requirements during these tough situations.
Okay, thank you very much. And how about SCG? Because your customer is different from Amazon. So how did you do to help your customers?
Yeah, so I think we are still not there, but the journey that we are traveling on right now is to try to listen more to the customer. There was a time when our people would come and talk to us and we'd just keep asking, how much did you sell? How much did you sell to that customer? I can see more and more we're asking the questions, what is the customer telling you? Or what needs, what are the pain points? So we're changing the kind of questions that we're asking our people, so we're trying to listen more. We're still not there, but this is the journey that we are traveling, and that's very important. Even during COVID, we tried to communicate and really find out what is it that our partners are looking for, where is it that there is a bottleneck, where's the pain point, and I guess that's the process that we want to travel on. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that listening sounds like very easy, but I think this is an important thing that we can do to make the mapping of the problems and identify the problem, and for the next step, we can solve the problem together with the customers.
Right, exactly. Especially for us, because we come from a background, we have, and we've been exporting. So we're like in sending mode. I've got a product, I can ship it to you, right? Now we're going to switch the mode completely and say, I want to listen. Right? So what's the problem over there in some country, and how can I solve that problem? So that's the heart of the transformation, really, that we are trying to do. And as I said, it's a journey. We are on it, and we still got a long way to go.
Yeah, I think communication, two-way communication is a keyword. Okay, and how about DHL?
So DHL, our positioning is really to be the logistics company for the world. And the situation that the world faced was, a manufacturer has material lying somewhere and he wants that raw material and he cannot get it. A manufacturer has product ready and he wants to send it to his customer and he cannot send it. And it really was a capacity problem right now around the world. And in some ways, the DHL organization was able to support that through our DHL Express setup, right? But that is in itself a premium solution, and that was not enough. So we worked to deploy additional different kind of solutions. So we deployed what is called round-the-world charters. We chartered aircrafts for ourselves, and we looked at the hubs where there is the highest amount of congestion, for example, right? The buildup of inventory in terms of in airports, and we deployed hop flights to release the congestion and make sure that we can reach our customers' cargo from point A to point B. That was to address the air freight scenario. The ocean freight scenario was even more delicate. And the solutions that we brought to the table was to look at which are the ports where there is capacity available. If Lamchabang in Thailand is congested, is there a capacity available out of Penang, for example, or is there capacity out of Hong Kong available to reach the US? And we deployed really multimodal. And I talked in my presentation earlier that people who were resistant to change, to try these kind of solutions, they had these BCPs on paper, right? But they had never made it a reality. And we were able to convince customers to make that a reality. So we shipped a lot of containers, say from Thailand, by truck to Hong Kong, and then shipped them by ocean freight to the US. Or taken odd dimensional cargo out of here to Singapore because we could get a flight from there to go to Australia. So the multimodal solutions were the real differentiator for our customers. And as we speak now, we are talking about talking to a customer to take rubber, really rubber, from Thailand, put in containers, and truck 20 of them at a time to China to take them. There's no stable on the ships to go from here directly. So all this is happening, and I think the real value that we brought to our customers to bring back the smiles, if I would say, because it's a gloomy time there. To bring back the smiles is to bring some hope, to bring solutions that says it's still possible to compete out there. Yeah, so that's probably.
Yeah, Mr. Pinto, you mentioned a lot about resilience.
Yeah.
And actually resilience also connected with preparedness. Yes. And when you talk about preparedness, you have to expect the unexpected. And if you look at COVID-19, it is something that we didn't expect before.
Correct.
But in order to get ourselves prepared for the next unexpected disruption like COVID-19, maybe we're going to have COVID-22, we have COVID-23, we don't know. But
something else.
Yeah, something else. Okay, we don't know. Yeah, will come for sure. So how can we get prepared for the unexpected situation or scenario like this? I will ask you first, and then I will ask other two speakers as well. Okay, but what is for this?
I think disruption is gonna come, and doctor said that sometime back that disruption is happening over time, but all the time it was limited to a geography. When Fukushima happened, it was limited to a geography. When Thailand floods happened, it was limited to a geography. But this is really speaking the first real global disruption, negative in a negative way, impacting all of us. And I think this is not the last. And what COVID taught us is, making resilient supply chains is a real thing. If we want to compete in that place in the future. Otherwise, our businesses will get disrupted anyways. And I think in that there are a few things. One is we have to really map from a manufacturer point of view or from a trading point of view. We have to map supplier networks. We have to map not only tier 1, but we have to go tier 2 and tier 3. We have to really see whether our networks are fit for purpose in the new normal. We have to look actually at and support our supplier health, along the ecosystem. From a supply networks point of view, you have to stop assuming that the way we are doing things right now is the right way to do things. We have to open our minds to really find out what's going on out there. To those people in the countries, your country managers, talk to your logistics service providers and find out what are the options out there. And these are the things I think that are really important to build the resilience in the supply chain. Also on the demand side, I think as your fulfillment patterns will change, you will have to, I think, completely re-evaluate your cost to serve your customer, right? It's going to change because your channel strategies are going to change, and therefore you have to really look at, we are looking at it ourselves, because even our cost to serve our customers is changing, and we have to look at it and be in a position to present that to our customers in the right way. So yeah, that's my point of view.
Thank you. Mr. Data, how about SCG? What do you prepared for the unexpected?
Yeah, I think if I knew where the next disruption is going to come from and when, I'd probably make a few $1 million.
Yes.
Correct. So, right. So to me, I think it's more a mindset issue. So we need to, from a situation where we feel disrupted, we need to start embracing disruption. It might sound really crazy, but that's what it's getting to, because as I mentioned in my opening remarks, that disruption is going to be a rare event. It's actually a very frequent event. And we might be talking like this every year from now on. And therefore, we have to really change our mindset within the organization and try to embrace disruption and develop the capability that, okay, whatever comes, I'm kind of ready for this. And here I would say that personally, I'm quite satisfied with the way our team managed the disruption during the period, especially from March until August or September, when we were really getting severely disrupted in various countries where COVID was going up and there was lockdowns and lockdown releases. And I think our teams did exceptionally well in being able to manage that and demonstrated flexibility and agility. So wherever the markets were down, we were quickly looking for alternative markets. Wherever the sources were down, we're quickly developing alternative sources. So that's the kind of mindset that we need to work on and develop. I think that's what we can do. It's more difficult to predict where the next, I mean, who could have said COVID's going to happen, right, a couple of years ago? But it's happened. How can we really know what's going to happen the next 2 years, except that something will happen, all right? So it's a mindset issue, according to me. Yeah.
Mindset is really important. So how about Amazon? Because you create a lot of disruption, but how about disruption that you have to get prepared for?
Right. I mean, we came from a different backgrounds, from a lot of companies. We were born as a disruptor. But the key is, we are, I mean it in a positive way.
I'm sure.
We are going through all this pain because of you guys.
That's why I talked about the negative disruptor. Just a positive disruptor here.
Well, but the point is, right, we have this mindset, to your point. Exactly, I mean, what you say, you speak like someone who's been working with us for years, because we believe that every day is the day one. So actually, the name of the building of a headquarters in Seattle is called Day One Buildings. So it's just day one every day, because there were companies who came before us disrupting other people. You could think of many brands before. And then a few years later, once they become successful, complacency. And then when complacency set in and it is starting, of the demise, and you become rigid, basically cope with changes very well. So we very focused on intentionally making our organizations, a day one companies every day. How do we consciously ourselves that everything we do is to prevent us from becoming a day two companies. We are governed by the 14 leadership principles, where all these leadership principles, it's like a law within the organization that allow organizations to freshen up their ideas every day. Like one example is like we have this called have backbone, disagree, and commit. So we do not really like people to agree with their bosses. I mean, we encourage people to present different view with supporting data, right? So these allow you to never really settling in, and assume that what takes you here is going to be the same thing that took you, that what took you here is going to be the same thing that takes you there. What made you successful up to this point, might not be the same that would take you there in the future. So we have to embrace that, the organization has to be built in such a way that, and by organization, I mean, starting from organization designs, people have heard about, agiles, all of these. It's actually, been very common, right? Every day, how do you allow not just the organization, it's the culture. How do you continue to create trust you in it when you say you want to encourage different opinions, right? And you would reward people who basically, continue to reinvent themselves and reinvent the team and reinvent the organization. And at day, how do you, as a management, how do you equip your people with the tools and the weapons that allows them to basically go and do their jobs in a much more effective way and allows them to really embrace resiliencies.
Some people add COVID-19 as a threat, but some people like Amazon look at COVID-19 as an opportunity. So I would like to ask the three gentlemen, this is the last question. If we look at COVID-19 as an opportunity, what kind of constructive aspect or what kind of changes that you think that COVID-19 bring to your organization in a positive or constructive way, starting from Amazon?
Okay. When I say opportunities, I mean, we don't look at it like the opportunities to make more money. I think as a companies, we believe in a long-term view because bear in mind, if we see short-term gains and then we take full advantage of it, then the whole ecosystem, it's like if you only win and everyone else lose, you're not going to win for a long time. Right. So that's the wrong way. We've seen a lot of companies who was doing so well in this COVID period, right? And there's a lot of things that did backfire. I mean, there's a lot of examples that they became greedy, they look at short term and then, they look at it as opportunities to make a lot of money, right? But our view is totally different. Our view, we believe that if we basically help our customers through these journeys, the whole situation became as an accelerator, something that coming in and put urgencies between realization and actions. It used to be that realization and action probably take years, right? And with this type of situations, it no longer does that because everyone see the impact, very fast. So it put urgencies onto the matters that, a lot of times when you want to changes, then it's painful. But once you've gone through it, once you started to learn that, change are commons, you build a muscles, and that muscle is like riding bicycles. The next time, even when the next crisis is 5 years away, you have muscle already, right? So if you do not ride bicycle for 5 years, I think you get on the bicycle, you still could ride it, right? So that's the idea.
Okay, let's build up our muscle together. Okay, and Mr. Pinter.
Just to add a little bit to what he said, I think what this COVID-19 situation helped organizations like DHL and DHL in particular is to accelerate the agenda of digitalization, I would say. So there is, for the last 5 years, we were internally and with our customers talking a lot on the digital agenda, especially topics like IoT or resilience control towers, for example. We have a system or a setup called Resilience 360, which really plots the trends of disruptions. Not this kind of disruptions, but the negative kind of disruptions like floods and port closures and so many things. There are tools available out there, and these were not being fully embraced by the global ecosystem, if I would say. But what we have seen as a positive coming out of all this is a general embrace of digitalization as a topic across the spectrum, and we see that as possibly the positive that is coming out of this, and something that will get us ready in a much more efficient way for the next COVID, if it comes. Hopefully not, but I think we will, as organizations, be better prepared to deal with a situation like this if it happens again.
Okay, thank you very much. Last but not least, SCG.
Thank you. I'm living on borrowed time because I see we're already hit zero.
Now the floor is yours.
Okay. So yeah, I think for SCG International, we have limitless opportunities. Absolutely. And we were already in transformation mode. And COVID only helped us to develop the sense of urgency, as Dr. Chavaporn mentioned, and also accelerate some of the things that we were trying to do already. And so we see both from ourselves internally as an organization, but also with our customers and with the entire ecosystem, we see huge opportunities. It's only a question of how well we can adapt, we can develop our own capabilities and distribute those capabilities so that we can perform in the market. I think finally, on a philosophical note, I think COVID has also helped us all to be more humble as people, because in an organization where we would probably, in most of our organizations, we would be very hierarchical. We are now actually talking much more democratically to all layers of the organization. It's happened because of COVID, but it's a good thing. We're also becoming more humble with our customers, with our distributors. The online channels are making it possible for us to meet more, talk more frequently. And also we are learning how to do more with less. So earlier on, if I wanted to do something, I'd have to plan to take a flight somewhere. Now you can't do that. And so you have to manage with whatever resources you have, yet you have to achieve your objective. And so we are learning how to do more with less. So I would say lots and lots of opportunities.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that if we look at COVID-19 as an opportunity, it's an opportunity to look at our company internally and externally. Yes. And I wish I could have more time, but we're running out of time. So thank you very much for giving us and share with us insight and your visions. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to give a big round of applause to our three speakers, Mr. Abhijit Datta from SCG International, Mr. Edwin Pinto from the HL Global Forwarding, and Dr. Chavaporn from Amazon Web Services. And last but not least, thank you for your kind participation virtually and physically. And this is the end of today's event, Global Update 2020, making a breakthrough after supply chain disruption. And last but not least, don't forget to fill the questionnaire after this. Now, I would like to come with the end of today's session. Once again, thank you very much for everyone. Thank you very much for SCG International to organize this event happen. On behalf of SCG International, once again, thank you very much. ขอบคุณครับ สวัสดีครับ
ขอบคุณครับ
today's competitive world, those spotting an opportunity first are undeniably the ones gaining an edge. At SCG, we believe that opportunity is everywhere. For more than a century, we have learned, adapted, and curiously looked for the opportunity. It has made us a unique, leading organization in ASEAN, ready to compete globally. Founded in 1913 to manufacture cement, a raw material for our national development, SCG entered the paper business in 1976, before stepping into a chemical industry in 1983. Wholeheartedly embracing our passion for better commitment, we also embarked on an international trade journey in 1978 through the Siam Cement Trading Company Limited. The company enjoyed healthy growth, eventually becoming SCG International Corporation Company Limited in 2018. We never stop improving ourselves in order to achieve and deliver the best for our customers. To make it happen, we combine products, services, and technologies with trust and strong partnership, connecting the dots for your successful business. We also innovated our ecosystem business model, providing international end-to-end business services and solutions for customers from the first step all the way to the finish line. It is our mission. International Trade Expert. Thanks to our long history of import and export expertise, our clients not only have come to trust in our quality products that address their needs, but SCG International Corporation also opens doors of opportunity around the globe for them to facilitate their business expansion. With long experience in importing and exporting, clients will receive not only their trust in our quality products that answer to their needs, but also doors of opportunity opened by SCG International to new markets around the globe for their business expansion. Service and solutions provider. SCG International is committed to providing full-scale services that can be wholeheartedly trusted, while also offering diverse experiences that add value to our products and services. New technology business. To meet the diverse business needs of our customers, SCG International brings new and various technologies and tools to the table, which help strengthen your business. Digital platform. Setting our foot into the digital world, we are now building our B2B digital trading platform together with a top-class technology partner, so you can maximize your business in the right places and reach the right customers. Distribution solutions. We enable our customers to access the right market and create a distribution channel for every kind of product. Our experience and strong alliances will help raise product profiles in Thailand or any other target country. We connect the dots for your success. Our competitive advantage lies in our collaboration with strategic partners around the world over the span of more than 40 years. SCG International Corporation strongly believes that all opportunities offer limitless success. We are ready to enhance our competitiveness through continued collaboration with our partners to grow sustainably as a trusted international business partner. SCG International, trusted international business partner. In today's competitive world, those spotting an opportunity first are undeniably the ones gaining an edge. At SCG, we believe that opportunity is everywhere. For more than a century, we have learned, adapted,